Chapter 2477. Song Qing-shu had some impression of this name. According to history, he was a famous general in the last years of the Western Xia dynasty. He had defeated the Mongolian army several times in Guazhou, but in the end, he was outnumbered and died bravely. Did the appearance of such a person really mean that the Western Xia dynasty was going to fall? Song Qing-shu was in a heavy mood. Although he had expected this day and had his own plan, he was not sure if it would succeed, so he was quite confused about the road ahead. Hearing that he had decided to change their route to the sandbank, Yuanzi was stunned. Aren't he going to save Kazli? Logically speaking, the group escorting Kazli was most likely to go north, but to the sandbank, they had to go all the way east. Song Qing-shu replied, "Now that Temujin is going east, even if they go north and pass through Tianshan, they will definitely go to the sandbank. Instead of chasing after them, it's better to go to Guazhou first. Maybe we can even get there before them." Hearing this, Yuanzi also felt that it made sense. Then, the two of them went east along the oasis along the Darim River. After a few days, they came to an extremely hot place. Although Song Qing-shu's internal energy was profound, he still felt that his body was about to melt. Yuanzi was even more unbearable. She was on the verge of collapsing. The two of them had to hide under the shade of a tree on a sand dune. Song Qing-shu handed the canteen to Yuanzi. "Are you feeling better?" Yuanzi drank a few mouthfuls of water before she recovered. "Sorry for dragging you down." Song Qing-shu shook his head. "Don't worry about it. The power of nature is not something that humans can contend with. Given the current situation, I'm afraid we can't continue during the day. Let's take a rest first and continue in the evening." Yuanzi nodded. This is the territory of Torpon. It's extremely hot all year round. The mountain in front of us is what the locals call Kiziltag, which means Red Mountain. By the way, according to the legends of the Han people, it's the flaming mountain that Master Xuanzang passed by on his way to obtain Buddhist scriptures. Flaming mountain? Song Qing-shu looked in the direction of the voice and saw an endless stretch of red mountains in the distance. Not a single blade of grass grew on the mountains, and birds were nowhere to be seen. At this moment, the red sun was high in the sky. Under the scorching sun, the reddish-brown mountain shone brightly, and the hot air rolled up like a raging flame. The tongue of flame reached the sky. No wonder it was called the Flaming Mountain. Although this place was desolate, it was not uninhabited. When Yuanzi passed by, she bought some fruit from the locals. After catching her breath, she cut them into pieces and ate them. The sweet juice cooled the two of them down a little. In order to conserve their energy, the two of them leaned against a tree and slept. In less than 4 hours, the two of them woke up. After all, it was hard to fall asleep in broad daylight. Song Qing-shu was worried about the situation in the Western Xia country. The atmosphere seemed a little gloomy. After glancing at him stealthily, Yuanzi hesitated for a while before asking, "Brother Song, I have a presumptuous request." "What's the matter?" Song Qing-shu was stunned. After traveling together for these days, the two of them had become more familiar with each other. "I used to think that my kung fu was not bad. But this time in Yarqiang City, when I fought with those masters, I realized how useless I was. If Brother Song hadn't arrived in time, all of us would have been killed." Yuanzi recalled the situation with lingering fear. "So I want to ask Brother Song to teach me kung fu so that I can protect the people I want to protect in the future." Kung fu. Song Qing-shu did not expect that she would make such a request. "Can't I?" Yuanzi looked at him nervously. "It's not impossible." Song Qing-shu smiled slightly. "It's just that your inner strength method is orthodox and your grandfather has laid a solid foundation for you. The longer you practice, the more powerful it will be. This can't be changed in a short time. As for your kung fu, the white python whip is also one of the top kung fu in Jianghu, and I think it suits you very well. If you practice other kung fu, you will inevitably bite off more than you can chew. However, I can correct some of your force exertion techniques. It should be able to improve your kung fu a lot in a short time." Yuanzi originally thought that he was turning her down. When she was a little disappointed, she was overjoyed when she heard the last sentence. "Thank you, Brother Song." She was also a master in jianghu. She knew that even if she practiced new inner strength or kung fu, it would be difficult to improve it in a short time. However, the force exertion techniques were different. They could even improve the power of her kung fu by more than half in a short time. Show me the white python whip. Song Qingshu leaned against the tree and motioned her to do it. Okay. Yuan Zi took off the long whip at her waist and began to show it one by one. Because it was a rare opportunity, she was fully focused. The long whip in her hand was like a silver dragon coming out of the sea. She moved up and down like a purple elf. Song Qingshu nodded frequently. The waist of the girl in front of him was really soft. Well, when she turned over just now, her chest seemed to be quite plump. The white python whip technique was also Zhou Zhihua's specialty, and he could not be more familiar with it. However, when the two of them used it, their temperaments were very different. Zhou Zhihua's temperament was relatively colder, and when she used the white python whip technique, there was always a ghostly aura. Fortunately, she was beautiful and could be considered a beautiful ghost. As for Yuan Zi, she was obviously not as good as Zhou Zhihua in this set of whip skills, but she was also quite good. She looked sweet and enthusiastic in purple. When she performed the whip skills, she was much more popular than Zhou Zhihua. She looked more like a coquettish dancer in the Western region. Seeing him nod, Yuan Zi was overjoyed and worked harder to perform. After a set of moves, Yuan Zi was so tired and sweaty. She put away the long whip and looked at him expectantly. Brother Song, how is it? It's quite soft. Song Qingshu answered subconsciously. Yuan Zi looked confused. Ah, do you mean that my moves were too soft? Ahem, ahem. Song Qingshu stopped thinking and said seriously. Overall, it's not bad. However, you are still young, and there are some problems in the way you exert force. Of course, with your talent, you should be able to understand it in a few years. Brother Song, please give me some advice. Yuan Zi blinked her eyes, which were full of joy. The man in front of her was the top existence in the world. Getting some advice from him was more valuable than practicing hard for 10 years. Song Qingshu was a little hesitant, but my method may make you a little shy and uncomfortable. I'm afraid you will misunderstand. Yuan Zi said hurriedly. How can I blame you? Brother Song, don't worry. I'll cooperate with you. All right then, stand still and don't move. Song Qingshu stood up from the shade of the tree and came to Yuan Zi's back. Don't use the whip. Perform the move of dragon and snake. Yuan Zi agreed and slightly spread her legs. Although this move was a whip, it was a test of the strength of the waist. Suddenly, she became stiff all over because she felt a pair of big hands touching her thighs. Brother Song, what are you doing? Her voice trembled a little. Song Qingshu twisted her thighs a few centimeters to the side and adjusted the angle. Then he said, remember this posture? Although it's only an inch different, feel the change with your heart and try again to see if there's any difference. Yuan Zi realized that she had misunderstood. She said with a red face, okay. Therefore, she tried to perform dragon and snake again. Halfway through, her thighs returned to her usual posture subconsciously. However, it was held tightly by Zhang Tai, and she could not move at all. However, she could feel an obvious strength passing up from her thighs. Then, with the twisting of her waist, the internal strength passing to her wrist was at least 20% stronger than before. If she waved the long whip, the power would be much stronger. Song Qingshu's voice rang out again. Just now, you subconsciously returned to your original state. I can't catch you and correct you like this every time, so you still need to remember the difference yourself and practice more to form muscle memory. Thank you, Brother Song. Yuan Zi blushed, thinking that she really misunderstood Zhang Tai. Next, perform the move of wind-blowing willow, Kakin again. Okay, as soon as Yuan Zi performed it, her body became stiff again, because she sensed that Zhang Tai's big hands moved one step higher. If other men dared to treat her like this, she would have cut them down. But, Brother Song, she could only comfort herself that Zhang Tai was guiding her, but her voice still trembled. Brother Song, how should I correct it now? While correcting the posture and angle of her muscles, Song Qingshu said, Women's joints are naturally softer than men's, so you have to make good use of this advantage. In addition, because women are going to give birth, their pelvis is relatively broad, and their hip joints are more protruding than men's. Therefore, they are born to move horizontally more widely than men's. You have to make full use of this advantage so that all your movements can be one step faster. In a fight between masters, you may be just one step behind. Feeling the movement of Zhang Tai's hands, Yuanzi responded in a low voice with a red face. She didn't know whether it was because of the mountain of flames or something else, but her whole body seemed to be burned. Chapter 2478. During the whole process, she couldn't remember what he said at all. She just followed his instructions mechanically. In the end, Yuanzi felt that her whole body was limp. If Song Yinxian hadn't supported her with his strength, she might have fallen to the ground. Song Qingshu also noticed the changes in her body. He said, "You may not be able to practice in your current state. Take a rest first." Yuanzi felt that her voice was trembling and she was about to collapse. She tremblingly went back to the tree and sat down, panting heavily. She felt as if she had been soaked in water. She didn't know whether it was because of the hot sweat or something else. Song Qingshu sat down beside her, handed her a pot of water, and said with a smile, "What's wrong with you, Miss Yuan?" Yuanzi glanced at him with hidden bitterness, thinking, "Aren't you asking the obvious?" After drinking a few mouthfuls of water, Yuanzi calmed down a little. She bit her lips and hesitated for a long time. Finally, she couldn't help asking, "Brother Song, do you usually teach girls to practice in this way?" Song Qingshu shook his head, replying, "No, it's the first time for me to teach girls in this way." Yuanzi, Song Qingshu couldn't help laughing, saying, "Don't you worry that I was taking advantage of you just now?" Yuanzi exclaimed, looking confused and annoyed. "Really?" Song Qingshu was speechless. "As a girl, why did you ask me such a question? What do you think?" Yuanzi shook her head with a blush, replying, "I don't think so. What Brother Song taught me just now is very practical. If I practice them well, I may be able to improve my kung fu in a short time. I feel lucky to get such advice." Song Qingshu felt strange, asking, "Why can't I give you advice and take advantage of you? Is it because I'm handsome?" Yuanzi's face turned red for the first time today. Her heart was beating fast, saying, "With your kung fu, if you really want to take advantage of me, I can't resist. Why do you have to beat around the bush?" "Ha, that makes sense." Song Qingshu stopped teasing her and said seriously, "Try to recall what I just taught you." Yuanzi nodded. She closed her eyes and began to meditate. However, the first thing that popped up her mind was the feeling of the other party's large hands moving. Her jade face flushed red, and she quietly opened her eyes to glance at Song Qingshu, who was at the side. Closing his eyes to rest, he couldn't help but stick out his tongue and hurriedly closed his eyes again. Originally, her aptitude for learning martial arts was quite high. In the past, when she learned martial arts, it could be said that she could learn it in one go. Her memory was also amazing. However, for some reason, she could only remember 60% of what the other party had taught her. The rest was forgotten. The more she tried to recall, the more the other party's hand appeared in her mind. For a moment, she was like Zhuangzhou dreaming of a butterfly, extremely absent-minded. Just like that, time gradually passed. The blazing sun set in the west, and the two continued on their way. In fact, the sun set very late in the western regions. Sometimes, the sun could still be seen at 10 o'clock in the evening in his previous life. Therefore, Song Qingshu had no time to wait for the sky to be completely dark before setting off. After walking for several hours, when they passed by a small river in the oasis, Yuanzi suddenly said in a low voice, "Brother Song, can you give me some time to take a bath?" "Take a bath?" Song Qingshu was stunned, thinking that women were really troublesome. Yuanzi said apologetically, "I know it's a bit of a waste of time, but I'm sticky all over and very uncomfortable. I'll do it soon." Song Qingshu said, I can't stop the girl's normal request. "Thank you, Brother Song." Yuanzi carried her luggage and ran to the river in a hurry. However, when she reached the river, she suddenly hesitated. Song Qingshu couldn't help laughing. He turned around and walked downstream, saying, "Don't worry, I won't peep." Hearing her words, he also felt uncomfortable all over. Yuan Zi then began to take off her clothes and enter the river with a red face. She only showed her head and looked at the man in the river quietly. Seeing that the man didn't look back, she let out a sigh of relief, thinking that she was really a petty person who measured the heart of a gentleman with her own mean measure. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Yuan Zi was startled. Following the sound, she saw several black spots running towards here, not far away. She was so scared that she wanted to put on her clothes at once. However, the man was rushing towards her, and there was no cover around. If she came out of the water, wouldn't she be seen by him? When she was hesitating, the man's horse was very fast and arrived in front of her in the blink of an eye. "Hey, there's a little beauty taking a bath here. Why are we brothers so lucky? She's even more beautiful than the most popular girl in the brothel in Sanzhou City. Damn it, it's all those Mongolians' fault. They killed all of us. We can't even find a prostitute. Haha, with such a beautiful girl, who will fall in love with a prostitute? Don't compete with me. I want to be the first one." "Umph, why are you the first one?" Yuan Zi saw clearly that these people were all in the clothes of horse bandits. The western region was vast and sparsely populated. Usually, one could not see a person for hundreds of miles. At the same time, the western region was a necessary place for the Silk Road, so a large number of caravans came and went here. Therefore, horse bandits came into being. They robbed lone merchants on the road. The large-scale horse bandits would even rob large caravans. These people were either some nearby herdsmen who were grazing while acting as roadblocks, or they were Han Chinese who had committed crimes in the Central Plains. Each and every one of them was a fugitive who was stranded here. From the way these people spoke and dressed, it was obvious that they were the latter. Hearing these people's filthy words, Yuan Zi was shocked and angry. Normally, when she met such ignorant people, she would kill them with a single slash without even using her whip. However, now she was naked in the river, so it was impossible for her to attack them. Seeing that she covered her chest with her hands and exposed her white and delicate shoulders and neck in the water, the horse bandits were stunned and rushed into the water one after another. "Little beauty, I'm coming. I'll treat you well." The last horse bandit knew that he could not compete with his companions, so he had to stay on the bank to get Yuan Zi's clothes. "Wow, this is the little beauty's clothes. They smell so good." When he was about to kiss her, his body suddenly became stiff and he fell straight to the ground. Seeing a group of men pouncing on her, Yuan Zi couldn't help feeling ashamed and angry. She covered her chest with one hand and secretly accumulated strength with the other. However, her kung fu was greatly reduced in the water. Moreover, she was naked. She thought that if they saw anything, it would be a psychological shadow for the rest of her life. When she was perturbed, a wave suddenly rose in front of her and hit the horse bandits. Then she felt her shoulder was caught by someone. Before she realized it, she had appeared on the bank. Just as she was about to cry out in surprise, the other party had already wrapped a piece of clothing around her body, blocking her naked body from being exposed. She looked into the water again and found that the horse bandits had floated on the water. Obviously, they had been shocked to death by the force of the wave. Holding Yuan Zi with one hand, Song Qingshu unsealed the acupoint of the last horse bandit lying beside him and asked coldly, "Did you come from Shazhou? My new book, Land Fairy, has been published on the Zongheng app today. Please collect it. Welcome to comment on this chapter. You can take care of it first. When the old book is finished, the other side will become fat. The old book is finally coming to an end. I'll try my best to give it a happy ending so that my efforts over these years will not be in vain." Chapter 2479. The man hurriedly nodded, "Have mercy, have mercy, have mercy." He had seen with his own eyes how his brothers were instantly killed by the enemy's wave. To be able to create such a large wave in the river, it was simply inhuman. How could he not know that he had kicked an iron plate? Song Qingshu said calmly, "I'm asking you a question. If you promise to let me go, I'll tell you. The horse bandit had been living on the edge of a knife all these years. He knew that he would not be able to escape death today, so he might as well use this as a condition. Okay, I promise to let you go. Song Qing-shu did not hesitate. Really? The horse bandit was overjoyed. Of course it's true. Would I lie? Song Qing-shu snorted. The horse bandit knew that these Han masters had some dignity and would not lie, so he hurriedly said, "We really did come from the direction of the Sand Continent." After listening to his explanation, he finally understood what had happened in the Sand Continent. Kublai had led his army to attack the Sand Continent more than a dozen times, but the Shishia General Jurishii had firmly defended it. Unfortunately, Temujin's reinforcements came. Temujin's ferocious reputation, coupled with his powerful reinforcements, even though Jurishii tried his best, the Sand Continent was on the verge of collapse. After defending for 2 days, many people in the Sand Continent knew that they could not hold on any longer and had some strange ideas. The deputy general of the city colluded with a group of people to rebel, tied up Jurishii, and quietly opened the city gates to surrender to the Mongols. Facing Temujin, Jurishii vowed not to surrender and was ordered to be executed. Because of the stubborn resistance from the soldiers and civilians of the Sand Continent, Temujin gave the order to massacre the entire city. Other than a few people, no one was spared. In order to avoid having to face this fortress again in the future, the Mongols even destroyed the entire city. After hearing this, Song Qing-shu's face was ashen. Even though he knew about the Mongols massacring cities, this time he was so close to it, the anger and shock made him tremble. Thinking about how many innocent people would die when the Mongols came south, his eyes gradually became determined. No matter what, he had to solve this problem this time. "Hero, I've said everything I need to say. Can you let me go now?" The horse bandit asked with a trembling voice. Song Qing-shu waved his hand, and the mounted bandit hurriedly turned and ran as if he had been granted amnesty. Song Qing-shu gave Yuan-zi a look. She was about to break her teeth, but she immediately understood Song Qing-shu's meaning. She kicked the saber on the ground. The long saber pierced into the back of the escaping horse gang. "Your aim is pretty good." Song Qing-shu couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. Yuan-zi, however, blushed. She was only wrapped in clothes. When she kicked the knife, just now, a large part of her thigh was exposed. But then she thought about how she was dragged out of the water naked by him. Although the whole process happened in the blink of an eye, he must have seen everything that he shouldn't have seen. It didn't seem to be a big deal to show her thighs now. But she also knew that this was not Song Qing-shu's fault. When she thought of the main culprits, she wished that she could stab the horse bandit a few more times. At this time, the horse bandit turned around with his last breath, pointed at Song Qing-shu, and said in a trembling voice, "You don't keep your word." Song Qing-shu shrugged. "I promised to let you go, but she didn't." The horse bandit spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily on the ground. "Thank you," Yuan-zi said with a blush. Not only her, but also Song Qing-shu was naked. Obviously, he came here in a hurry to save her. Song Qing-shu couldn't help laughing. "We are companions. I can't let you be bullied by other men." Yuan-zi was stunned, feeling that his words were a bit weird. "I can't be bullied by other men, but can I be bullied by you? We were disturbed just now. Do you want to take a bath?" Song Qing-shu asked. Yuan-zi took a look at the floating corpses on the water and shook her head hurriedly. "Well, put on your clothes. Let's hurry up." After saying that, Song Qing-shu came to the riverside, sucked up the horse bandits in the river with dragon-catching skill, and threw them into the Gobi Desert in the distance. Water was precious in the desert. He couldn't let their corpses pollute the water here. Otherwise, he would be guilty. Yuan-zi put on her clothes quickly and stared at Song Yunxian in the whole process. Finding that Song Yunxian didn't turn around to peep at her, she was secretly relieved. Meanwhile, she felt a little embarrassed. Brother Song is a gentleman, though his words and deeds are a bit improper. If Song Qing-shu knew what she was thinking at this time, he would definitely laugh out. "I'm afraid you have some misunderstanding about me." After putting on her clothes, Yuan-zi was a little worried for the next 2 days. Fortunately, Song Qing-shu didn't mention what happened that night again. Then she gradually felt relieved. After traveling day and night, they finally arrived at Shazhou City. No, it was not called Shazhou City anymore. All that was left were broken walls, and the scene inside was like purgatory on earth. After taking a few glances, Yuan Zi couldn't help but run to the side and vomit. Song Qing-shu was silent, and no one knew what he was thinking. These Mongolians are too cruel. Yuan Zi drank a few mouthfuls of water and finally calmed down. She knew how cruel the Mongolians were because she had helped the Woodhead Luan tribe to fight against the Mongolians. But seeing the massacre at such a close distance, she still trembled with anger. Let's go continue to the east. Song Qing-shu turned over and mounted his horse. The Shazhou city was broken, and the western gate of Western Xia was wide open. The Mongolian cavalry could march straight in. Yuan Zi nodded and followed closely behind him. As the two traveled eastward, they gradually learned about what happened during this period from the passing refugees. After Temujin broke through the Shazhou, he moved eastward without stopping and captured Juchuan. Then he arrived at Zhangye. Chu Qi, the general in charge of Zhangye, was also afraid of the Mongolians. Taking into account what happened in the Shazhou and Juchuan, he chose to surrender. But there were still many loyal and brave people in the city. Assistant General Chua killed Chu Qi and took over the defense of the city to resist the Mongolians. Unfortunately, they were already outnumbered, and after a wave of internal strife, the city of Zhangye was soon broken. Next, the Mongolian army moved eastward along the Hushi corridor. Wajabu, the general in charge of Western Xia, surrendered. Then, the Mongolian army was like a hot knife through butter. Zhongwei, Shazhou, and other places all surrendered. Song Qing-shu's mood became heavier and heavier. He had to admit that although the Mongolian massacre was very inhumane, it was very useful in times of war. Because they adopted the policy of massacring the city after it was broken and giving preferential treatment to those who surrendered, the defending side could not work together. Some people wanted to defend, some wanted to surrender because they were worried about being massacred. Even the common people in the city were worried that they would be killed after the city was broken and wanted to surrender. In wars in the Central Plains, the common people in the city would often help their own soldiers defend the city. Whether it was to provide logistics or to work as laborers behind the city walls, they would do their best to protect their homes. Therefore, there were often classic examples of 2,000 or 3,000 soldiers defending against an attack of tens of thousands. But against the vicious Mongolian army, none of this was useful. News of all kinds of horrifying massacres spread, and the people in the city were in a state of panic. Most of them surrendered. Continuing eastward, he received the latest news. Temujin's army had defeated the main force led by the Western Xia General Wei Mingling-gong near Lingwu. Temujin had sent Boru to lead the eastern army to attack the Hetao Plain. He broke through the city of Wulahai and then massacred the city of Blackwater. Even now, the city of Blackwater was still littered with broken bones. Boru's army defeated the Western Xia General Deng Bu's army west of the Helan Mountains. Finally, they met up with Temujin and surrounded the capital of Western Xia, Xingqing. Chapter 2480. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but worry. He didn't know what was going on in Xingqing Prefecture. Mu Wanqing, Yalu Nanxian, and Li Qinglu must be in a terrible situation. The Mongolian army was too strong. Although the Western Xia army wasn't weak, it was much weaker than the Mongolian army. Coupled with the civil strife, the Western Xia army was even weaker. Therefore, the Mongolians marched straight in, looking like they could destroy the country in one battle. The Western Xia army's defeat couldn't be blamed on the poor command. The Mongolian cavalry was too strong in the field. The Western Xia army was already elites, but they still couldn't defeat the Mongolians. But they had no choice but to fight in the field, unless they watched the Mongolian army pillage and ravage the people in their territory. Besides, they could be easily defeated by the Mongolian army, just like in Shazhou City. No matter how well they defended, they couldn't defend against the enemy. Moreover, The Mongolians had learned how to equip cannons and cannons during their expedition to the west. They could only buy some time by simply defending. It was a pity that the Western Xia couldn't build fortifications on the mountain like Chongqing City. They couldn't send supplies to each other through the rich water network and rivers in Sichuan and Chongqing. The fishing city of Yichuan was not conquered by the Mongolians until the fall of the Southern Song dynasty. Song Qingshu was thinking hard about the Western Xia's way out. The Xingqing prefecture should have the last main force of the Western Xia army. If they lost the Western Xia army, the Western Xia would be finished. But now the Mongolian army was at the gate of the city. They didn't need to send reinforcements, so Mu Wanqing wouldn't send troops out of the city. However, he didn't know where the reinforcements from the Jin Kingdom and Sichuan Kingdom had arrived. Although he controlled a lot of resources in various countries, he couldn't unite all of them. It was just like how the Qin Kingdom couldn't rescue the Xixia Kingdom from thousands of miles away. The Southern Song dynasty had been at war with the Western Xia for decades. Lin couldn't send troops. Only Sichuan Kingdom was close and could be commanded. But Sichuan Kingdom also needed to prevent the Southern Song dynasty from sending people to take advantage of the situation. So they had to leave some people to defend. So the main force of reinforcements depended on the Jin Kingdom. It seemed that he had to return to the Xingqing prefecture as soon as possible to have enough information to make a judgment. At that moment, dozens of cavalrymen surrounded a carriage and rushed over from afar. At first, Song Qingshu thought that they were Mongolian cavalrymen, but he soon realized that their attire was different. They looked more like the attire of the Tubo. Why would the Tubo cavalry appear here? Song Qingshu was stunned. After all, it was more than 1,000 miles away from here. Moreover, there was the vast Kunlun Mountains and the Hungduan mountain range between them. Suddenly, a strange fragrance drifted over. He only felt that it was simple, elegant, and indescribably sweet. It was not the fragrance of any flower, and at the same time, it was definitely not rouge. No rouge or rouge could have such an elegant fragrance. While he was wondering, Yuan Zi's face suddenly changed. "Brother Song, hurry up, catch them. What happened?" At this time, Song Qingshu was in a hurry to return to Xingqing Prefecture. He did not want to cause unnecessary trouble, especially since he had a good relationship with Tubo. Whether it was Jiu Maji or Princess Jincheng, they were inextricably linked. He did not want to cause any misunderstanding. There's no time to explain. Yuan Zi became anxious. The cavalrymen moved very fast, as if they were in a hurry. Soon, they had traveled hundreds of meters away. Therefore, she hurriedly urged her horse to catch up with them. Song Qingshu was stunned. Worried that something might happen to her, he hurriedly followed after her. Apparently, those Tubo cavalrymen also found the two people behind them. Suddenly, they turned around and drew their bows and arrows. A small round of arrows was shot over. Yuan Zi urged her horse to catch up with them. The arrows were shot so fast that they almost arrived in front of her in the blink of an eye. She hurriedly took out her long whip and knocked down many arrows in front of her. However, many arrows still broke through her defense and shot toward her chest. "I'm doomed." Yuan Zi was about to close her eyes and wait for death. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of her. With a wave of his sleeve, those arrows lost their aim and fell on both sides of the road. Brother Song, seeing the tall figure in front of her, Yuan Zi's heart pounded. Song Qingshu nodded slightly. Then, he tiptoed and moved faster than a galloping horse. In a few breaths, he blocked the way of those Tubo soldiers. Although he did not want to cause unnecessary trouble, it was too strange for these Tubo soldiers to suddenly kill him without any reason. Those cavalrymen did not stop. They raised their scimitars and rushed over, as if they were going to crush him into pieces with the momentum of the charge. Song Qingshu waved his hand casually. There were small stones everywhere in the Gobi Desert. He rolled up the stones and shot them towards the dozens of cavalrymen in the Flower Rain skill. Before those cavalrymen saw clearly what was going on, they were hit hard and fell off their horses. The whole team was in a mess. Originally, the Flower Rain skill focused on widening the killing range as much as possible. However, the lethality of each point was slightly insufficient. Therefore, Hong Qigong and Huang Rong could kill Ouyang Feng snakes with the flower rain skill, but they could not use it to deal with an army. However, Song Qingshu's kung fu was so powerful that each stone contained gravity. Moreover, he aimed at the weak parts of the armor very well. Therefore, when those cavalrymen and horses fell down, many of them had broken bones and muscles. A soft voice came from the carriage. Because of this accident, the carriage was not controlled by anyone. The horses were frightened and rushed to the other side. Brother Song, go and stop the carriage. Yuan Zi, who was rushing here, exclaimed hurriedly. She had seen a deep valley over there. If she fell down, she would probably be smashed into pieces. Song Qingshu reacted quickly. With a few leaps, he flew to the front of the carriage and pulled on the reins urgently. His hands now had the strength of 1,000 caddies. So how could the horse withstand it? In an instant, it was pulled upright, and the carriage stopped abruptly at the edge of the cliff. A delicate cry rang out. Due to inertia, the person in the carriage flew out of the carriage like a cannonball. Song Qingshu did not know whether the other party was friend or foe, so he instinctively dodged, and the figure fell into the valley. At this time, Song Qingshu finally saw clearly that the person was a beautiful girl. Her face was so innocent that no one would think she was a bad person at the first sight of her. Song Qingshu hurriedly rushed to her. He held her waist with one hand and grasped the rock wall with the other. They swayed in the air for a while and then stabilized themselves. At this moment, he suddenly understood what it meant to have a warm and fragrant jade in his arms. A strange fragrance came from the girl, which seemed to be the best smell in the world. Brother Song, catch it! Yuan Zi threw the long whip down and stood at the edge of the cliff anxiously. No need. Song Qingshu shook his head. He exerted strength in his hands and leaped up. The girl in his arms stared at him with a pair of eyes as bright as the stars in the sky. She suddenly said, at #%yen, and asterisk, even though he couldn't understand what she was saying, her voice was soft and clear. It was warm and gentle, pleasing to the ears. Recently, he was a little puzzled because he didn't know how to write about that famous girl. He always felt that such a person was so unreal that it was difficult to write about her. Chapter 2481. Song Qingshu was dumbfounded. What was this girl saying? Why couldn't he understand a single word? She's talking in reply. Yuan Zi also revealed a relaxed smile. The general idea is, Big brother who saved my life, are you an immortal from heaven or a messenger sent by Allah? Song Qingshu thought about how Yali Xian and Man often said this, and a smile appeared on his face. Tell her that I'm a messenger sent by Allah. Yuan Zi glared at him. You must be trying to take advantage of her, because she's pretty. You can't say this kind of thing in the border. Be careful of being punished by Allah. After a pause, she said, It's safe now. Can you let go of Kazli? Kazli? Song Qingshu was stunned. She is Hua Qingtong's sister, Princess Fragrance. Can't you smell the fragrance on her? Yuan Zi rolled her eyes. How could Song Qingshu not smell it? He had been smelling that refreshing fragrance since the beginning. However, he thought that Princess Xiangxiangbela was being escorted by Feng Hua and the Heaven's Mandate sex people. Just now, he saw that this wave of Tubo cavalry was Tubo cavalry, so he did not think in that direction. Yuan Zi went over to help Princess Fragrance out of his arms, and then talked to her in reply. Kazli peeked at Song Qingshu from time to time, her eyes filled with curiosity. Song Qingshu was also curious about her. Only now did he have the chance to carefully look at the most beautiful woman in the Golden Book. He saw that her skin was as white as snow, whiter than Han women. At the same time, her skin was not as rough as those Western women's. Looking at her from a close distance, her skin was really smooth and glowing. Coupled with her clothes that were as white as snow, she was bright and holy. She didn't look like a mortal, but like a fairy or a saintess from heaven. She was clearly a beauty that could cause the downfall of a city, but there was a kind of immature charm between her brows. The two completely opposite temperaments were naturally unified on her body. Perhaps because of the accident just now, Her skirt was torn by something, revealing her two slender and straight calves. It was as if they had been soaked in milk, exuding a tempting luster and clarity. Song Qingshu took a glance, and his mouth became dry. His heart was beating fast. He didn't understand why he had such a reaction. It should be known that he could freely face Dan Yuru, who had mastered the charm technique. However, after a few glances at the girl in front of him, he felt a little uncontrollable, as if he had returned to his youth where he was worried about gains and losses. However, he was experienced after all. After the initial intoxication, he quickly calmed down and became secretly vigilant. This girl's temperament was natural, which was even more powerful than the most powerful charm technique in the world. At this time, Princess Fragrance suddenly looked at him and said something in a lively voice. Song Qingshu couldn't understand what she said, so he looked at Yuanzi for advice. Yuanzi turned back and said with a strange look, "Kazli said, 'Hero in front of me, why do you keep staring at my legs? You shouldn't be so bold.'" Ahem, Song Qingshu almost choked. However, he had recovered his composure and said with a smile, "Because it's beautiful, I can't help but look at it a few more times." Yuanzi was dumbfounded. She didn't expect that he was not embarrassed at all. She even admired him a little. Warriors of the Wooden Table Luan tribe were all dumbfounded when they saw Kazli. If they had heard Kazli's rebuke just now, they would have been anxious to explain. After translating his words, Princess Honeylush's face slowly turned pink, but she didn't say anything to reprimand him. Ask her why she is in the hands of the Tubo people. Song Qingshu recovered from the shock of her beauty and soon remembered the business. Yuanzi nodded and hurriedly communicated with Princess Fragrance. Then she answered, "Kazli said that the Mongolian troop escorting her was attacked by these Tubo people not long ago. Most of them were killed, except for Bai Fonghua and a few others who were the leader who escaped. Then these Tubo people took her to the south and met us." Song Qingshu thought to himself. Just now, he had found that these Tubo warriors were not weak. Not only were they skilled in archery and horsemanship, but there were also many masters of Tantric Buddhism among them. No wonder they could take Princess Fragrance back from the hands of the Tianming sect. Ask them whether they bullied her or not. Song Qingshu was curious about the purpose of these Tubo people. Did they want to save her? Did I kill the wrong person just now? Yuanzi asked Princess Fragrance and then answered. Kazli said these people were fierce at the beginning, but they were very polite to her after she persuaded them with kind words. Song Qingshu was stunned. Just now, these cavalrymen were fierce and wanted to kill passers-by. They were not the kind of people who could be persuaded with kind words. Seeming to know his doubt, Yuanzi explained, "Brother Song, you don't know this. This is Kazli's unique charm. Her gentle words are like the most severe order, which can't be disobeyed. This is the case in the Muzwolan tribe, and I think these people are no exception." Song Qingshu immediately felt relieved. One had to know that even he had almost lost his mind just now. This woman did indeed have a kind of irresistible charm. Princess Fragrance said a few more words. Yuanzi nodded and added, "By the way, Kazli said those people don't seem to be Tubo people, but the subordinates of someone called Desiluo." Desiluo? Song Qingshu was suddenly enlightened. No wonder he couldn't figure out why Tubo people would come here from thousands of miles away in the vast Kunlun Mountains. If they were Desiluo, there would be no problem. Desiluo's territory was in Qinghai, which was next to Western Xia. It was easy for him to kidnap Princess Fragrance on the road. The tribes led by Desiluo were actually Tubo people, but they didn't live in Tibet but in Qinghai. Their clothes were similar, so Song Qingshu was confused. But why did Desiluo come to kidnap Princess Fragrance? It was obvious that Princess Fragrance was given to Temujin. No matter how lustful Desiluo was, he shouldn't be so daring. What's more, last time in Western Xia, they seemed to be flirting with the Mongolians. How could they bring trouble to themselves at this time? Song Qingshu told Yuanzi about his doubts. Yuanzi asked Princess Fragrance, but she shook her head slightly with a blank look on her face. Obviously, she didn't know about this. Song Qingshu walked to the warriors of Desiluo. Just now, many of them fell off their galloping horses and died, but many were still alive. Why do you want to kidnap Princess Fragrance? Song Qingshu asked. A few years ago, in order to fight against Li Yuanhao of Western Xia, de Siluo had a good relationship with the Song dynasty. Therefore, many people in the tribe could speak Chinese. Hearing his question, someone answered, "Our chief heard that Princess Fragrance is the most beautiful woman in the world, so he wants to take her back to be his wife." Song Qingshu frowned. When Western Xia was looking for a bride, he had met de Siluo and knew that he was an ambitious and ruthless man, so he would never be so unwise for a woman. But no matter how he asked, those warriors insisted that it was so. Song Qingshu didn't want to talk nonsense with them, so he directly used the soul transfer technique to interrogate them. Finally, he learned the truth. It turned out that they were the subordinates of de Siluo's Luan Bu, Tubo's prime minister, Wen Keqi. Wen Keqi was originally the chief of the tribe in Qingtang. Because of the arrival of de Siluo, he had no choice but to step back and replace de Siluo. But in recent years, de Siluo's prestige had grown higher and higher, making it difficult for Wen Keqi to kill him. It just so happened that the Mongols had recently invaded Western Xia. Wen Keqi suddenly smelled a good opportunity and decided to steal Princess Fragrance under the name of de Siluo. If Temujin came to attack him, he could take advantage of the Mongols to overthrow de Siluo and replace him. Then, he would send Princess Fragrance back to Temujin to please him and surrender to him. After all, Wen Keqi had no ambition to conquer the world. He would be satisfied as long as he could become the ruler of Qingtang. Besides, the Mongols had a good reputation for treating their vassals well, so Wen Keqi was not worried that the Mongols would annex him. Chapter 2482. Due to an unknown reason, we can't be found on Sogu today. Dear readers, please remember our domain name, Book C Pavilion, and find your way home. Song Qingshu's eyes lit up when he heard this. Previously, he was still gloomy, but after hearing this, he couldn't help but feel enlightened. Previously, his plan lacked a catalyst, and now the catalyst was here. Those people gradually came to their senses. Knowing that they had disclosed the secret, they bit the poison in their teeth and died on the spot. Song Qingshu was stunned. Wen Keqi was so cruel that he had trained so many men of sacrifice. Princess Fragrance, who was walking over, exclaimed. She hurriedly turned her face away and couldn't bear to see it. Yuan Zi had been in Jianghu for a long time and was used to death. Therefore, she didn't take it seriously. She couldn't help asking curiously, "Is that the soul transfer method in Nining Sutra?" "How do you know?" Song Qingshu was a little curious. Yuan Zi answered, "I met senior sister apprentice Zhou a few years ago and was lucky to get her advice. Therefore, I know something about Nining Sutra." Jiruo. Not until then did Song Qingshu remember that Yuan Zi's master was also an immortal nun of the Amei sect. He couldn't help laughing. "Speaking of which, shouldn't you call me brother-in-law?" Yuan Zi blushed, but she didn't answer. Instead, she said, "Your cultivation method is too weird. With your cultivation, I don't think anyone in the world can resist it. Isn't it? Seeing that she was hesitating, Song Qingshu said with a smile, "What? Are you worried that I'll use it on women and become a rapist from now on?" Yuan Zi spat. "You have enough money to spend." At this time, Princess Fragrance said something. Yuan Zi translated. Kazli said that these people treated her well along the way. She felt sad to see them die like this, so she wanted to bury them. Song Qingshu had wanted to say that celestial burial was popular among Tubo people. Exposing their bodies in the wilderness was also a fate for them. However, he suddenly thought of another thing and agreed. Yuan Zi was stunned. They didn't have much time on the way. She thought that he would never agree to such a waste of time. Unexpectedly, he agreed. It seemed that it was Kazli's charm again. Thinking of this, she couldn't help feeling jealous. She was also a beauty, but in front of Kazli, she couldn't be as proud and confident as usual. In fact, she was not the only one who had such a feeling over the years. Hua Qingtong was also beautiful and had devised strategies to lead her clansmen to victory one after another. However, Yuanzi was clear that it was not so easy to achieve all these. No matter what Hua Qingtong did, she had to bear the criticism of her people. Even her relatives would doubt her. However, Casley had never encountered such an experience. No matter what she did, everyone believed in her and praised her. Even if she did something wrong, no one would blame her. Those people could always find a reason to praise her. Thinking of this, Yuanzi felt a little ashamed. Even though Hua Qingtong had been treated differently all these years, she still loved her sister. Compared with her sister, Yuanzi's experience was nothing. At this time, Song Qingshu had moved the corpses of the warriors to the bottom of the cliff. Casley also wanted to help, but she was too weak to move them. Song Qingshu smiled at her, indicating that he didn't need her help. Soon, he defeated everyone under the cliff. Yuanzi ran over and translated. Casley said thank you. She also asked why you didn't dig a pit, but move them here. Song Qingshu explained, it's easy for wild beasts to dig pit. I asked them to use the mountain as their mausoleum. They should be able to rest in peace. His plan could not be leaked. If someone found out that these warriors had died here, it would be a little troublesome. He buried them with the mountain. Even if someone found out later, they wouldn't be able to find any clues. Step back a little. When the two women had retreated far enough, Song Qingshu suddenly soared into the sky. He seemed to have turned into a giant sword. No, Yuanzi could see clearly that there was indeed an indistinct giant sword surrounding him in the air. He waved his hand, and the giant sword, which was dozens of meters long, slashed down. With a loud bang, a protruding part of the mountain wall halfway up the mountain was cut off. Large amounts of mountain rocks and soil tumbled down. In the blink of an eye, the corpses of the warriors were all buried under the rubble. Looking at the high mound of soil, Yuanzi thought that if someone wanted to dig them up, it would take tens of thousands of soldiers to dig for 10 days or half a month. She had always known that Ding Hao was very good at martial arts. However, he didn't spend much effort to deal with his enemies. Although she was shocked and admired him, she didn't feel it directly. However, the scene in front of her made her soul tremble. The vigorous and straight figure in the air and the earth-shattering sword. She knew that she would never forget that scene for the rest of her life. Princess Fragrance, whose eyes were more beautiful than the starry sky, was also full of shock. She pulled Yuanzi beside her and kept asking her something. Song Qingshu walked over and asked curiously, "What is she talking about?" Yuanzi smiled bitterly. She said that all the warriors on the prairie are not as good as you. She's asking for your name. I've already told her your name. Song Qingshu said with a smile, "Don't fall in love with me because I'm too good. Let's continue our journey." Yuanzi pulled Casley to talk to her using the echo language. However, Casley shook her head. "I might not be able to go with you. I have to go back to Yarqiang City to look for my sister. Also, I have to find a way to avenge my father and brother." Yuanzi said with a complicated expression, "You don't have to go back because he has avenged you." She then told her what had happened in Yarqiang City. When she heard what happened over there, Casley's rosy and alluring lips opened wide. She looked at Song Qingshu from time to time, and her beautiful eyes sparkled. "So it was Brother Song who took revenge for me. I want to marry him to repay his kindness." Yuanzi was shocked and said hurriedly, "You have to marry him just to repay his kindness." "That's right." Casley nodded. "I made a vow to Allah that I would marry whoever avenged me. Not only did he avenge me, but he also saved me just now. It's obvious that Allah heard my prayers and specially sent him to save me." Yuanzi was anxious, "But you can't marry him." Casley blinked her eyes. There was a trace of doubt on her beautiful face, but her eyes were full of innocence. "Why? Does Sister Z like him too?" Yuanzi's heart skipped a beat, and her face turned red instantly. She knew that Casley was never scheming and would say whatever came to her mind. She hurriedly explained, "It has nothing to do with me. Your sister and he are already together. He is your brother-in-law." She then told her what had happened between Song Qingshu and Hua Qingtong. She thought that there would be no problem. However, Casley shook her head. "Isn't that great? Isn't that just right? This way, I can be with my sister forever and never have to be separated. Plus, I think my sister won't mind. Yuan-zi. She realized that she could not keep up with Casley's train of thought. She wanted to refute, but she felt that Casley's words were very logical. Chapter 2483. Due to an unknown reason, we can't be found on Sogu today. Dear readers, please remember our domain name, Book C Pavilion, and find your way home. Yuan-zi was speechless for a long time and finally thought of a reason. Don't you like Chen Jialuo? I do like him. Casley blinked her big, innocent eyes. He's like my brother. No, he treats me better than my real brother. Yuan-zi thought. Chen Jialuo is so infatuated with you. How would he not treat you well? It's a pity that he died in the battle to save me. Casley's tears kept falling like pearls. She looked so pitiful that it made people feel sorry for her. Why is she crying? Song Qing-shu, who was listening to the heavenly book by the side, was a little baffled. He saw the two girls mumbling something and looking at him shyly from time to time. But in the next second, they burst into tears. He made himself look like a villain who was trying to kidnap a girl. She said she wants to marry you. As Yuan-zi comforted Casley, she looked at him with a complicated expression. Many men on the prairie yearned for Casley day and night. If they could talk to her or see her smile, they would not be able to sleep for more than half a month. If she said she wanted something, all the warriors on the prairie would risk their lives for her. Now that she wanted to marry a man, who in the world could resist such a temptation? Marry me? Song Qing-shu was stunned. I'm charming, but I can't be that charming, can I? We just met, and he made the most beautiful woman in the Golden Book fall in love with him? She made a vow that she would marry the one who avenged her. You not only avenged her, but also saved her. Therefore, she feels that you're Mr. Right. Therefore, she wants to marry you. Are you overjoyed now? Yuan-zi even sensed the jealousy in her words. Song Qing-shu fell into silence. After a while, he said, help me tell her that I don't want her to marry me. Instead, she wants to do something for me. Yuan-zi was anxious at once. Are you crazy? Do you know how many men in the world dream of Casley? She offered to marry you, but you don't want her? She didn't know why she was so anxious. Song Qing-shu smiled. Why are you in such a hurry? Shouldn't you be happy? Yuan-zi was stunned. Why should I be happy? Song Qing-shu smiled and said, isn't it better for me to be with you instead of her? You? Yuan-zi's face flushed at once. Her mind went blank, and she didn't know what to say at all. Song Qing-shu hurriedly raised his hand. I was just kidding. Don't mind me. Yuan-zi was both ashamed and angry. Don't make such jokes again. In order to conceal the awkwardness in her heart, she hurriedly translated his words to Casley. During the entire process, her heart was still pounding, and she did not calm down for a long time. After the two women talked for a while, Yuan-zi turned around and said to Song Qing-shu with a strange expression, Casley said that she will do whatever you want her to do now that she's married to you. So there's no conflict between the two. Song Qing-shu was immediately shocked. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Seeming to know what he was thinking, Yuan-zi said, Casley is a kind and innocent child. I hope you won't let her down. Song Qing-shu replied, let her hear what I want her to do first. I need her to go to the Mongolian camp and meet Temujin. Yuan-zi immediately became angry. What? You want to give her to that devil? Are you a man or not? It's not what you think, Song Qing-shu explained. I need her to get close to Temujin. I'm afraid that she's the only one in the world who can reduce Temujin's guards to the weakest. He was not like Chen Jialuo in the Book of Swords and Sabers, who would dream of exchanging princess fragrance for the Han Empire. However, Temujin was usually surrounded by many skilled fighters and guards. Perhaps he would only let his guard down in front of the weak and innocent princess fragrance. Yuan-zi was also a smart person. She immediately understood. You want to assassinate Temujin? Song Qing-shu made a shushing gesture. Don't tell anyone about this, or I'll die without a burial place. Yuan-zi looked serious. Brother Song, don't worry. I won't tell anyone. I misunderstood you before. I didn't expect that you would take such a big risk to assassinate that devil. Please accept my bow. Song Qingshu hurried to help her up. What are you doing? Get up. Yuan Zi still insisted on bowing. No, I'm thanking you on behalf of all the people in the world. All these years, she had been traveling the world with her grandfather, especially in the western regions. The Mongols had brought bloodshed and slaughter, and countless people had died. She had always hated herself for not being able to stop all of this. Now that she heard the other party had such thoughts, how could she not admire him? Song Qingshu couldn't help laughing. Stop bowing. It's like you're bowing to heaven and earth. Hearing this, Yuan Zi was stunned at first. When she realized what he meant, she blushed and stood up immediately. She didn't dare to bow again. Song Qingshu smiled. Translated for her. Blushing, Yuan Zi communicated with Castley for a while before replying. Castley agreed. She said that it was the Mongolians who caused their tribes to fight against each other. During the whole process, not only her father and elder brother were killed, but also many brave warriors and good sisters were killed. Tai Mu was the culprit. She also wanted to take revenge. That's good. Let's go first. Song Qingshu helped the two girls onto the horse and rushed to Xingqing Prefecture. He needed to communicate with the Western Xia country first and contact the other parties at the same time. Only by cooperating with them could they complete the task. On the way, Song Qingshu wanted to learn the Hui language, and Castley wanted to learn Chinese. Obviously, they were not used to having someone translate for them. Therefore, Yuan Zi became their teacher. She taught them Chinese and Hui language for a while. The more she taught, the more uncomfortable she felt. She always felt that she was an extra person in the middle. Due to the Mongols looting, many towns were destroyed. It was difficult for them to find Nin. In order to completely destroy the resistance of the local people, the Mongols even threw the corpses into the wells in the city. As a result, they could only sleep in the wild. When night fell, the three of them found a valley and set up camp beside a stream in the mountains. Song Qingshu hunted a hare and roasted it. He gave a rabbit leg to Princess Fragrance. However, Princess Fragrance just smiled and didn't take it. Yuan Zi said hurriedly, Castley doesn't like to eat meat. She has always been a vegetarian. Song Qingshu suddenly understood and remembered the rumors about her. He patted his head and said, wait a minute. After saying this, he flew into the forest. Yuan Zi sighed faintly. She roughly guessed what he was going to do. Castley asked, Sister Zi, why are you sighing? Do you like him too? Yuan Zi was startled and said, don't talk nonsense. Castley smiled very beautifully and said, Sister Zi, why don't you admit it? I can see that you look at Brother Song the same way those women look at their lovers in the tribe. Are you afraid that we will mind? Don't worry. According to our doctrine, a man can marry 4 wives at the same time. Sister, me, and you only have 3. Moreover, we have a good relationship. Why will we mind? Yuan Zi blushed and said, it's not what you think. Besides, he has more than 4 wives. Chapter 2484. Castley was stunned. Ah, that's a little troublesome. Yuan Zi heaved a sigh of relief. She thought that this girl had finally realized her mistake. However, in the next moment, Castley said, but it doesn't matter. As long as he treats all of us equally, it's fine. Yuan Zi was speechless. She realized that it was hard for her to keep up with this girl's train of thought. She might choke to death if she continued the conversation. At this moment, Song Qingshu had already returned. He was holding a lot of wild fruits in his hands, and at the same time, he had also picked some flowers. I don't know what you like to eat, so I got some of each. I also picked some flowers for you. They smell quite fragrant. You should like them. How do you know that I like flowers? Castley looked surprised. She took the things from his hands. Without looking at the fruits, she plucked a few petals and put them in her mouth. Obviously, she enjoyed it very much. Yuan Zi translated her words. Song Qingshu said with a smile, when I was with Qingtong, she mentioned these things. She said that you like to eat all kinds of flowers secretly since you were young. You didn't listen to your family's advice. Besides, she couldn't keep an eye on you all day, so she just let you be in the end. He was a little curious about the principle. Logically speaking, Even if ordinary people ate flowers every day, they wouldn't emit a strange fragrance like flowers. Otherwise, wouldn't all the herbivores in the world have a fragrance? Yeah, bees pick flowers every day, but the honey they produce is very fragrant. Could it be that she has a similar transformation? Thank you, Brother Song. Kasley's eyes smiled like crescent moons. Even Yuan Zi, who was a woman, was moved by her. After the group finished their meal, Kasley suddenly whispered something to Yuan Zi. Yuan Zi said to Song Qing-shu with a strange expression, "Brother Song, Kasley said that she wants to take a bath in the stream. She's been taken by the guards these days, so it's not convenient for her to take a bath." Again, Song Qing-shu felt a headache. Yuan Zi also wanted to take a bath every now and then. These women are really troublesome. However, in the face of Kasley's big watery eyes and the pleading look in them, no man could bear to refuse her. He could only nod and say, "Hurry up then. I'll keep watch for you nearby in case someone comes near again." Recalling what happened in the desert last time, Yuan Zi blushed from the side of her neck. After getting permission, Kasley exclaimed happily and immediately untied her belt. Yuan Zi was so scared that she hurriedly stopped her and asked, "What are you doing?" "He's still here." Kasley blinked and said, "Anyway, I'm going to marry Brother Song, so it doesn't matter if he sees me." Yuan Zi was speechless and said, "But you are, after all, you. Lei, and Yuan Zi said, "You are not married yet." Yuan Zi hurriedly said, "Kasley asked you to stay away and not peep." Oh, Song Qing-shu naturally wouldn't be so tasteless. He walked 100 feet away and began to meditate with his back facing the stream. This time, he didn't take a bath because he was worried that the same problem as last time would occur. After half an hour, Song Qing-shu, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes because he felt something was wrong. It seemed that a group of cavalrymen was coming from afar, and he could faintly feel the vibration. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Song Qing-shu, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes. He had sensed that something was wrong. It seemed that a large group of cavalry was rushing over from afar, and he could faintly feel the tremors. However, they were on the mountain. How could the cavalrymen run up and cause such a vibration? He hurriedly said to the stream, "Put on your clothes quickly. Something is wrong." "What's wrong?" Yuan Zi was a little stunned because she didn't hear anything. At this moment, the earth suddenly shook and the mountain swayed. The entire earth seemed to be shaking. The two girls in the stream had never seen such a scene before, and they both cried out in alarm. Earthquake! Song Qing-shu finally understood what the strange feeling was. It was not the sound of the cavalrymen, but the vibration from the depths of the earth. Although he had never experienced an earthquake, he had seen a lot of pictures of earthquakes on TV in his previous life. Since the media was so advanced in his previous life, he realized it immediately. At this time, a violent roar came from the upper reaches of the valley. Song Qing-shu listened carefully, and his face changed greatly. It's a mountain torrent. A mountain torrent is coming. In fact, he was not sure whether it was a mountain torrent or a mudslide. Either way, it would bring a destructive danger. Thinking of this, he could no longer care about anything else and directly rushed over. The two girls had never experienced an earthquake before, so naturally, they did not know what was going on. At this time, they were foolishly looking upstream in the water. When they saw Song Qing-shu rushing over, the two girls blushed. When Yuan Zi was about to ask, Song Qing-shu interrupted her. "There's no time to explain. Let's go." Song Qing-shu swept across the water directly and flew out with the two girls' shoulders in each hand. Even the innocent Kasley was clutching her chest tightly, her face turning pale. Yuan Zi was shocked and angry. "What are you doing?" Song Qing-shu was stunned. He didn't feel anything when he was in a hurry to save them. However, when he came to his senses and saw the scene in front of him, he almost had a nosebleed. Their long black hair was scattered on their shoulders, which formed a sharp contrast with their milky skin. At this moment, the two girls covered their breasts with one hand and covered the hem of their clothes with the other. Their graceful and charming bodies were covered with water droplets. Under the moonlight, they looked more hazy and attractive. It seemed that he could feel the soul-stirring, soft, and bouncy feeling just by looking at them. Perhaps sensing his gaze, the two girls' smooth and white skin flushed. Casley was more natural. Anyway, she was thinking of marrying him in the future. Yuan-zi, who was beside her, blushed, and her eyes were full of anger and bitterness. At this moment, a roaring stream mixed with rocks and trees rushed down from the upper reaches. No, it couldn't be described as a stream. It was more like a roaring yellow river. The two girls had never seen such a scene. They turned pale, and even Yuan-zi forgot to scold him. Let's get out of here first. Facing the power of nature, even Song Qing-shu was a little frightened. No matter how powerful a person was, he was too small compared with the power of nature. Clothes, clothes, Yuan-zi hurriedly pointed at the shore and said as she thought of something. At this time, the stream rose sharply. The clothes they put on the shore had been drawn into the water and were about to be washed away. Wait for me here. Song Qing-shu tapped the tip of his foot, and he'd already flashed past the surface of the water like an arrow leaving the bow. He picked up the dress that was in the water, and then he tapped the tip of his foot on the surface of the water before turning back the way he came. The entire process seemed to be completed in one go without the slightest pause, and it was extremely pleasing to the eye. Yuan-zi admired him very much. Her lightness skill had always been good, but she couldn't do that. It was hard to borrow strength on the water surface, but he could still be so natural and unrestrained. Could he really be the immortal in heaven that Casley mentioned? At this time, Song Qing-shu thought of one thing. He remembered that in history, the Mongolians had besieged the capital of Xixia for a long time. Although Xixia was on the verge of collapse, the people of Xixia had always been brave and had been struggling to hold on. Until one day, there was a sudden earthquake. The mountains collapsed, the ground cracked, and the city wall collapsed, which gave the superstitious people a great psychological pressure. The plague that followed became the last straw for the people of Xixia. Not long after the earthquake, the last emperor of Xixia had to surrender with his people. Would history repeat itself after the sudden earthquake this time? Chapter 2485. Thinking that Xingqing Mansion might be experiencing the biggest crisis at this time, Song Qing-shu was so anxious that he couldn't wait to go back immediately. Well, can you give us the clothes? Yuan-zi's shy voice came from behind. Only then did Song Qing-shu remember that there were two women glowing with holy light beside him. He handed the clothes to them and said, "These clothes are all wet. How can you wear them? It's better than nothing. I can't wear them, right?" Yuan-zi was about to cry. "When the earthquake is over, let's find a place to make a fire and dry the clothes." Song Qing-shu said in a deep voice, "Have a good rest tonight. From tomorrow on, we'll have to travel day and night." Although Song Qing-shu's back was facing her, Yuan-zi took the clothes and covered her chest subconsciously. "Brother Song, are you worried about Xixia?" Song Qing-shu answered. Yuan-zi hurriedly comforted him. "Xixia has been established for 100 years. You don't know how many crises it has experienced. It will be able to hold on. Brother Song, don't worry too much." Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. How could he explain to Yuan-zi that he knew the original history? Yuan-zi was comforting him out of kindness, so he naturally wouldn't say anything. The three of them stayed on a flat ground in the valley for less than an hour. The earthquake finally subsided. Song Qing-shu began to collect firewood. "Let's rest here tonight. There may be aftershocks later. It's not safe to stay in the cave." Yuan-zi blushed, "But there's nothing to hide here, and we're not wearing clothes." This Song Qing-shu built a simple drying pole with branches, hung their clothes on it, and put it between the three of them. "In this way, I can't see you." Yuan-zi hurriedly explained, "I'm not afraid of being seen by you. I'm just saying that there's nothing to hide here. If someone comes, we'll all be exposed." "Don't worry." Song Qing-shu smiled. "I'll fully activate my qi to sense the movements around. If someone comes, I'll inform you in advance." Hearing his words, Yuan-zi was relieved. Given his martial arts, No one could approach him if he tried his best to guard himself. By the way, you don't seem to mind being seen by me. Then why do you still use clothes to hide between us? Song Qing-shu couldn't help teasing her. Yuan Zi blushed instantly. Haven't you seen enough? She wondered how many times he had seen her naked during this period. Song Qing-shu laughed. At this time, he heard Kazli saying something on the other side and asked Yuan Zi, Kazli, what is she talking about? She said you were so handsome when you flew just now. She still doesn't know how it feels to fly in this life. Yuan Zi also looked depressed. Was she the only one who was troubled about being naked? Kazli didn't care about it. This silly girl is too carefree. Song Qing-shu smiled. That's easy. He took off his coat and wrapped it around Kazli's body. Then, he hugged her soft waist and flew up the nearby cliff. Kazli was shocked and hugged him tightly subconsciously. When she realized that they were really flying in the valley, her face was flushed. She was obviously very excited. Kazli looked around excitedly and kept saying something to him. It was a pity that Song Qing-shu had only learned the Hui language for a short period of time and could only understand a few words. It was very difficult for him to understand what she was saying. I don't understand. Song Qing-shu could only use the Hui language that he had just learned to answer. Kazli was stunned at first. Then, a smile appeared on her face. It was like 100 flowers blooming. She hugged his neck and kissed him on the cheek. This action could be used all over the world. He knew what the other party was trying to say without words. The air was filled with the girl's unique fragrance. Feeling her warm and soft lips, Song Qing-shu felt his heart pounding. He hadn't felt like this for many years. Kazli really had a special charm. Feeling the strange fragrance on her body at such a close distance, he even had a sudden urge to get her immediately. He couldn't help but be shocked when he thought of this. Could it be that the strange fragrance on Kazli's body could arouse men's lust? But he hadn't heard of it. All these years, the people from the Mujwaluan tribe, and even Shunjalo, respected her as a goddess every time they interacted. They didn't dare to have any blasphemous thoughts. Then why was it different for him? Yuan Zi, who was on the ground, watched Song Qing-shu fly around the valley with Kazli in his arms. She tightened her clothes and couldn't help but kick the stones on the ground. This guy really has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. However, she had to admit that there probably weren't many women in the world who could resist such an attraction. While she was in a daze, Song Qing-shu had already returned with Kazli. The moment they landed, Kazli said something to Yuan Zi excitedly. What did she say to you? Even though he couldn't understand, Kazli's voice was too soft and pleasant. Even if she was just chattering, it was still an extreme enjoyment. Nothing much. Yuan Zi blushed slightly. Some private words between women. It turned out that Kazli had described how wonderful the feeling was earlier and asked her to give it a try. However, how could she say such words? Unexpectedly, Song Qing-shu said, "Do you want to give it a try too?" Yuan Zi was shocked. She thought that he had understood their conversation. However, looking at his eyes, he must have thought of it himself. She hurriedly replied, it's okay. Don't stand on ceremony. It's quite tiring for you to be my guide day and night. I haven't had the time to thank you." Song Qing-shu didn't wait for her reply and directly flew up with her in his arms. Yuan Zi finally understood why Kazli had shouted so loudly just now. It was because this feeling was indeed thrilling and exciting. She also knew lightness skill, but she usually only moved at low altitudes. How could she move on a steep cliff as though it was flat ground like now? Looking at the trees and rocks on the ground becoming smaller and smaller, Yuan Zi couldn't help but exclaim along the way. Even when they returned to the ground, her heart was still pounding. The way she looked at Song Qing-shu was a little different. After this episode, the relationship between the three of them seemed to be more harmonious than before. After a night's rest, the three of them hurriedly started their journey the next morning. They were originally worried that Kazli wouldn't be able to handle the long journey. However, it turned out that she grew up in a wooden house and herded horses and sheep every day. Her riding skills weren't worse than anyone else's. The three of them traveled all the way to the east and finally arrived near Xingqing Prefecture. However, they could see the Mongolian army surrounding the city from afar. As far as the eye could see, the Mongolian army was densely packed. The banners connected together covered the sky and the sun. Xingqing Prefecture stood alone in the center, like a small boat in the raging sea, as if it would sink at any time. Song Qingshu heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he came in time. You guys settle down here and wait for me. I'll go into the city first. It'll take a few hours to 1 or 2 days. I'll come out to look for you guys. The battle was so chaotic, and it was too dangerous for him to bring people in. Yuan Zi nodded. Okay, I'll protect Kazli. We'll wait for you nearby. Chapter 2486. Arriving at the outskirts of Xingqing Prefecture City, Song Qingshu originally thought that if the city was too tightly surrounded, he would fly through the high void. However, when he got closer, he realized that not every inch of land was surrounded. Thinking about it, Xingqing Prefecture was the capital of Western Xia. Even compared to the entire Central Plains, it was still a big city. It was impossible to completely surround it. Moreover, besieging a city had always been about leaving an opening. The attacker would intentionally or unintentionally leave an opening for the defending side to waver in their determination to defend the city. Song Qingshu took advantage of the darkness and sped towards Xingqing Prefecture like a wisp of smoke. The tall city wall couldn't stop him, so he climbed up the city wall with the tips of his toes. But the commotion here still alarmed the soldiers guarding the city. After all, it was a critical moment. Countless eyes were on him. No matter how good his lightness skill was, he couldn't hide from them. Some soldiers shot arrows at him, but he easily brushed them off. The soldiers on the city wall were shocked. Just as they were about to sound the alarm, Song Qingshu had already climbed up the city wall. He flashed the golden token and said, "Take me to the palace." The soldiers on the city wall were stunned. Only the emperor had this golden token. With this token, it was as if the emperor himself had arrived. They didn't dare to be negligent. They sent people to inform him and escort him to the palace. Soon, a tall and slender figure wearing golden armor came with a group of cavalry. Obviously, the commotion here had alarmed her. The group of people bowed to her. "Greetings, Crown Princess." Song Qingshu was secretly shocked. The respect these soldiers had for her could be seen with the naked eye. It was not because of her identity, but because they had gone through thick and thin with her, fighting together on the city gate, and the friendship they had left behind. The figure on the horse was beautiful. Between her brows, there was a hint of heroism and exhaustion. Her skin, which used to be as white as jade, was now stained with a lot of dust. Her golden armor was dull, and there were even some bloodstains on it. Who else could it be but Yelu Nancian? Brother Song. Seeing Song Qingshu, Yelu Nancian's furrowed brows relaxed in an instant, her beautiful eyes shining with a startling light. Xianer, Song Qingshu's heart ached for her. He didn't need to ask to know how much hardship she had been through. In front of so many soldiers, Yelu Nancian still remembered her status and did not do anything too extreme. But after entering the palace, she could no longer hold back and threw herself into his arms, tightly hugging him, not saying a word. Feeling her trembling body, Song Qingshu comforted her softly. "It's okay. It's okay. I'm back. Everything will be fine." When he arrived at the imperial study, Mu Wanxing and Li Qinglu were already waiting there. What was surprising was that there was also a flirtatious figure in the room. Who else could it be but Li Qiushui? Seeing his puzzled expression, Li Qiushui giggled and said, "Xixia is my home. How can I not come back when there is a problem here?" Mu Wanxing said, "Fortunately, there is the old princess. If she hadn't arrived in time, the city gate would have been broken in the previous attacks by the Mongolian masters." Li Qinglu also answered, "Yes, if it wasn't for the old princess and Wu, old master Wu Yizi, it would have been troublesome during this period of time." Strictly speaking, from her point of view, Wu Yizi was the old princess's lover. Naturally, she would not like him. Song Qingshu was very glad. He was worried that the Xixiao would not be able to withstand the attack of the Mongolian masters. Although the martial arts masters were not very useful on the battlefield, They were very effective as special forces to attack the city gate at night. With Li Qiushui and Wu Yizi here, it would not be easy to defeat them unless the great Grandmaster personally intervened. By the way, where's Senior Wu Yizi? Li Qiushui answered, he has spent a lot of energy these days and was injured before. He is resting now. Song Qingshu was shocked. Is the injury serious? I have a lot of healing medicine here. In addition, I know how to use the solitary yang finger to heal. Li Qiushui rolled her eyes. In terms of healing medicine, nothing can compare to the 9 turns bear snake pill. Don't forget that we are also from the Xiaoyao sect. As for the solitary yang finger, it is not that serious. It is just that his old injury was too serious. Although he got your black jade connection ointment to reconnect his muscles and bones, and the God illuminating scripture to restore his power, it has been delayed for decades. He can't return his peak, so he's been struggling these days. He'll be fine after resting for a while. Song Qingshu was relieved. By the way, what is the situation now? It is not very good. Li Qinglu opened a scroll of map and said, some time ago, the Mongolian army divided into 2 groups and destroyed the city. The 2 main forces we sent to help, Wei Minglingong and Ashigan Bu, were defeated. Now, they can only retreat inside the city. Xingqing Prefecture has been surrounded. There are still some cities in Xixia that are holding out, but unless a miracle happens, it is impossible to turn the situation around. Song Qingshu asked in a low voice, how many soldiers are there in the city? How long can the supplies last? Mu Wanqing answered, there are still around 100,000 soldiers. They are the last fighting force of Xixia. The supplies can last for around a year. 100,000 soldiers sounded like a lot, but it was such a big city. Even if they were distributed to every side, it was not a lot. Yalun Nancian added, this is all in theory, but once there is no hope, the soldiers and civilians in the city may not be able to persevere. Recently, I have sensed that some people are tempted. During the earthquake yesterday, the 4 great villains and some soldiers wanted to open the city gates to let the Mongolian army in. Fortunately, we noticed it in time. Senior Wu Yizi was injured at that time. The 4 great villains? Song Qingshu was stunned. He looked at Li Qiushui. Aren't they always part of Class 1 Hall? Why did they suddenly betray us? The Mongolians must have agreed to help Duan Yanqing restore his country, and the others followed Duan Yanqing's lead, so they naturally rebelled as well. Li Qiushui had been in charge of Class 1 Hall for many years, and he had already guessed the general truth. Song Qingshu did not pay too much attention to it. These people were just martial artists and did not have the ability to lead troops, so they could not affect the overall situation. By the way, where are the reinforcements from the other routes? Mu Wanqing looked worried. The Jin Kingdom and the Southern Song Dynasty Sichuan have both sent reinforcements, but they are still patrolling 100 miles away. They must be wary of the Mongolians and do not dare to get too close. Song Qingshu knew that these 2 routes of reinforcements were probably waiting for his news. After all, the current situation was too chaotic, and they did not dare to advance rashly. The current situation was very similar to the Battle of Jiulu. On one side, the Qin army surrounded the Zhao kingdom, and the allied forces of the other countries did not dare to advance. Unfortunately, he was not Xiangyu, and Temujin was not Wang Li. But he had already found an opportunity. Don't worry. Before long, Temujin will split up and leave. Really? Mu Wanqing and the others all perked up. It must be known that the pressure of the Mongolian army during this period of time was too great. Because the Siluo snatched Princess Sweet Fragrance, who was offered to Temujin. Song Qingshu roughly explained the situation with Mu Zhuoluan, and at the same time told them about the rescue of Princess Sweet Fragrance. Although Temujin is not Wu Sangui, he is so powerful that he will not tolerate his woman being snatched away. Moreover, there are already enough troops surrounding Xingqing Prefecture, and many of the Mongolian soldiers have not been fully mobilized. So, if nothing unexpected happens, he will send troops to Qingtang. On one hand, he will take back Kazli, and on the other hand, he will completely wipe out the threat from the flanks. In history, When Temujin had besieged the capital of Xixia, he had left his troops behind to besiege the capital of Xixia, while he led another army to attack Shaanxi and Qinghai. Now, all kinds of reasons have been found for him, and they were just waiting for him to fall into the trap. This is great news. Li Qiushui's face was full of excitement. De Siluo and Xixia have always been enemies, and they would never help us this time. But now that this has happened, it's impossible for them not to fight with the Mongolians. I can only say that we are lucky that De Siluo has an ambitious person in his ranks. Otherwise, with his knowledge and experience, he would never offend the Mongolians at this time. Song Qingshu also had a smile on his face. After discussing some of the details of the plan, Song Qingshu was about to bid farewell to them. Leaving so soon? Mu Wanqing was a little reluctant. Although Yelu Nanxian and Li Qinglu did not speak, the meaning in their eyes was quite similar. I need to contact the people from both Jin and Song. That way, we can seize the fleeting opportunity at the crucial moment. Song Qingshu's tone was full of apology. Although he had many female friends over the years, he had been wandering around and had spent too little time with each of them. The girls also knew that this was a serious matter and did not dare to delay it. They just kept reminding him to be careful. After leaving the city, Song Qingshu ran to inform Yuanzi and Kazli, and then hurried in the direction of the Jin reinforcements in the east. 100 miles away, in the Jin camp, Song Qingshu did not want to reveal his identity in case there were Mongolian spies and Temujin realized something. He used his superior kung fu to sneak into the camp. He went all the way to the commander's tent and saw that it was brightly lit and full of people. It seemed that they were also restless in the face of the situation in Xixia. He was worried that there were other generals inside and was hesitating whether to go in or not. Suddenly, a cold snort came from inside. Who is it? Song Qingshu was shocked. How could he be detected by someone with his level of cultivation? He had no time to think. Alarmed, he hurriedly dodged to the side. 3 embroidery needles shot directly at the place where he was just a moment ago, and even blocked his possible way out. Seeing the familiar hidden weapons, Song Qingshu could not help but be surprised and happy. At this moment, a red shadow rushed out of the tent. It was as fast as a ghost and attacked his vitals the moment it made its move. Song Qingshu did not dare to be careless and hurriedly defended himself. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged more than a dozen moves. The speed was so fast that the surrounding people could not see the two clearly. The red shadow obviously sensed something and could not help but exclaim. Song Qingshu took the opportunity to pull down his scarf and said, stop fighting, it's me." Chapter 2487. The red figure was stunned when he saw his face, but he snorted and continued to attack. Song Qingshu was flustered. He dodged and shouted, "Why are you still hitting me after recognizing me? It's your own fault for sneaking around like a thief in your own home. You deserve to be beaten up." Dongfang Muxue was the only one who was dressed in red and whose kung fu was close to Song Qingshu's. The commotion here had alerted the soldiers of the Jin kingdom. Soon, heavy footsteps could be heard, and a group of armored warriors surrounded them. "Stand down," a woman in a tight, leather dress shouted. She was not only the princess of the Jin kingdom, but also the sister-in-law of Tang Quobian, the most powerful official in the Jin kingdom. Most importantly, she was in charge of the secret service and could stop children from crying at night. These warriors did not dare to object and left as quickly as they came. Song Qingshu was enraged by Dongfang Muxue. He wanted to grab her, press her on his thighs, and spank her. Unfortunately, her kung fu was too high. Even with his current cultivation, it would not be easy for him to defeat her. He could only dream about it. "Miss Dongfang, we have taught him a lesson. Let's discuss business again." Wan Yinping smiled. Dongfang Muxue snorted and returned to her side. She stood with her hands behind her back like a ghost. Song Qingshu heaved a sigh of relief. Sister-in-law is the most considerate. Brother-in-law, even though they were already intimate, Wan Yinping still called out subconsciously. General Wan Yinshun, who was at the side, saw the shyness of a young girl on the face of the cold and emotionless Demonis. His heart was in turmoil. Actually, Goodbye and Wan Yinping had revealed a lot of things to him these days. Coupled with the current situation, how could he not understand Song Qingshu's identity? Even though he was shocked, he hesitated for a long time when he remembered that all of them were trained by Song Qingshu. In the end, he did not ask. Big brother Qingshu, the beautiful girl, bounced over and grabbed his arm. She didn't seem to mind that her breasts were pressed tightly against his elbow. Little demon, Wan Yinping snorted, but thinking about Wan Yin Chongjia's pitiful life, she didn't say anything. Sister Zhongjia, you are here too. Isn't Mr. Ouyang nearby? Song Qingshu looked around. A burst of laughter rang out, and a tall, white-haired old man walked out of the tent. He had an indescribable aura about him. It was none other than the Western poison Ouyang Feng. Brother, do you still remember me? What are you talking about, Brother Ouyang? If it wasn't for your warning, I'm afraid I would still be muddle-headed for a long time. When Song Qingshu thought of what happened on Divine Dragon Island, he couldn't help but feel as if a lifetime had passed. Ouyang Feng also sighed and said time really flies. It's true that the new generation excels the old. Now your martial arts have far surpassed mine. I'm ashamed of my inferiority after witnessing your fight. Song Qingshu smiled and said, Brother Ouyang, you're being too humble. This time around, I can see that you've restrained your mythological power. I'm sure you've improved a lot during your seclusion. It's just a small improvement. It's not worth mentioning. Although Ouyang Feng said this, he couldn't help but reveal a hint of smugness on his face. Previously, when he witnessed the life-and-death battle of several great grandmasters on Mount Wudong, he was greatly shocked. He also comprehended something in his heart. After returning to seclusion for a long time, he had faintly touched the threshold. Stop flattering each other. Come in and discuss business. Dongfang Muxue couldn't bear to listen anymore. She directly opened the curtain and took the lead to enter. Song Qingshu smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly followed. After so long, Dongfang Muxue still had a natural domineering aura. She was completely different from other women who were timid and helpless. However, for some reason, the more she acted like this, the more he felt that there was a special charm about her that attracted him. Damn it, wasn't she cheap? When the group entered the tent, Song Qingshu and Monk Wanyin Chun nodded in acknowledgement. There were many things that didn't need to be said too clearly. Everything was understood without words. Dongfang, why are you here? Song Qingshu then asked Dongfang Muxue. Dongfang Muxue rolled her eyes. How could I not come for such an important matter? It's just that the Qing kingdom is too far away, and it's not convenient to send troops to help Xixia. So I came to see if I could be of any help. According to your previous plan, you should need me. Song Qingshu laughed. That's right. At first, I only had a 50% chance of success. But now that you're here, I have a 70% chance. Dongfang Muxue frowned. We still can't be careless. The Mongolians are full of masters. Just the two of us alone may not be enough. Song Qingshu explained. Most of the grandmasters by Temujin's side are dead. The only one left is Pang Ban in the forest. The masters by his side are unprecedentedly weak. It's a good time to strike. He briefly explained what had happened a while ago. Beside him, Wan Yinping hurriedly reminded him. Brother-in-law, you still have to be careful. Even though he doesn't have any grandmasters by his side, he still has many other masters. Let's not talk about the masters of Basiba and Tantra Buddhism, but the 2,000 guards and quiver soldiers in his army are not to be underestimated. Every one of the guards is a top-notch master in Jianghu, and every quiver soldier is comparable to a godly archer like the 8 divine archers. What's more, unlike the masters of Jianghu, these people specialize in joint attacks. Even a grandmaster would die if he were to face them. She was in charge of the intelligence department of the Jin Kingdom and naturally knew all of this. Song Qingshu nodded. He had been in Mongolia for a long time and had learned this information. The number of famous masters by Temujin's side had indeed decreased, but the guard by his side were still very strong. If he did not end the battle quickly, not only would he have to face the 2,000 guards and quiver soldiers, but he would also have to fight with thousands of soldiers. Even a grandmaster would not be able to escape death. Grandmasters were powerful, and their internal energy was endless. However, there was a limit to the recovery speed of their internal energy and stamina. If they were surrounded by thousands of soldiers, the consumption of their internal energy would be greater than their recovery speed. If this continued for too long, they would definitely be exhausted to death. Of course, unless they were forced into a desperate situation where they could not leave, grandmasters or even grandmasters could still avoid danger in advance. It would not be easy for the army to exhaust them to death. Song Qingshu roughly explained his plan. The others were all amazed, but Dongfang Muxiue was a little hesitant. Are you sure Temujin will mobilize his army to fight against Lao Si for a woman? Believe me, he definitely will. Princess Fragrance is a woman that any man in the world would want to have. Casli's stunning appearance appeared in Song Qingshu's mind as he sighed from the bottom of his heart. Even someone like you, who's used to seeing beauties, would say that. Princess Xiangxiangbela must really be a peerless beauty. Even I want to meet her. A hint of curiosity appeared on Dongfang Muxiue's beautiful face. Song Qingshu suddenly remembered that this guy seemed to have some offensive attributes, and for a moment, he couldn't help but have a strange expression. Wanyan Zhongjie was a little angry. Seeing how highly Song Qingshu praised Princess Fragrance's beauty, she couldn't help but feel a little jealous. She quickly changed the topic. Then we will wait for you to kill Temujin. After we send the signal, we will attack while the Mongolian army is in chaos. But what if the assassination fails? After all, I heard that countless people have tried to assassinate Temujin and failed. Just the king of assassins in the West has organized thousands of assassination attempts. As the commander-in-chief of the army, Wanyan Shun was much more thoughtful. Song Qingshu sighed. If the assassination fails, then immediately take the army back to the Jin kingdom and prepare for the next Mongolian attack. Wanyan Ping gently held his hand. Brother-in-law, I believe in you. You will definitely succeed. She was speaking the truth. In her heart, Song Qingshu was a man who could do anything and create miracles. Song Qingshu smiled at her, but he was a little unsure. It had been a long time since he had been so nervous and perturbed. The last time was when he had staked everything on one throw to assassinate Xian Yi and replace him in the Jin kingdom. This time, he was more prepared and had more helpers. Even his own cultivation had improved, but he still felt uneasy. After discussing the details of the plan, Song Qingshu was about to leave. He still had to confirm with the army in Sichuan. Before he left, he called Wanyan Ping aside and asked her gently, "How is your sister?" A smile appeared on Wanyan Ping's face. "She is doing well. Oh right, the child has been born. It's a girl." Song Qingshu was overjoyed. It's good to have a girl. She will be as gentle and beautiful as her mother. All right, have you named her yet? Wanyan Ping let out a sigh of relief. Her sister had been worried that Song Qingshu would prefer boys. No, she said that she will name her after you go back. Song Qingshu's heart trembled. A warm feeling flowed through him. This simple sentence made him feel at home. Good, for our baby daughter, I will definitely succeed this time. Thinking of Gubai's gentle appearance when he comforted the child, Song Qingshu felt a surge of pride. He felt that there was no difficulty that he could not overcome. Wanyan Ping blushed. Since brother-in-law likes children so much, why don't I give him a few as well? After leaving the Jin Kingdom's tent, Song Qingshu rushed towards the Song army's camp in the south. With the information provided by Wanyan Ping, it was not difficult to find them. Dongfang Muxiue also followed him. Along the way, she saw that he could not stop smiling. She could not help but ask, "Do you like children so much?" Song Qingshu looked at her with a smile. "Why? Do you want to give birth to children for me too?" Dongfang Muxiue snorted. "Giving birth is so painful. I'm not interested. In comparison, I'm more curious about how beautiful Princess Xiangxiang is." Song Qingshu rolled his eyes. "Can you change this hobby of yours? There are so many concubines in the Forbidden City. Isn't that enough?" Dongfang Muxiue's lips curled up into a beautiful smile, making her look even more beautiful and alluring. What, are you jealous? Song Qing-shu was annoyed. No, I must get you pregnant so that you don't have any bad thoughts. Dongfang Mushiwe's figure flashed, leaving only a red afterimage in the air and her bell-like laughter. Let's see if you have the ability. You want to compete with me in lightness skill? Song Qing-shu chuckled and hurriedly chased after her. Download the Zongheng app. Everyone can bookmark my new book, Land Fairy, and slowly raise it. Chapter 2488. If it wasn't for Song Qing-shu, Dongfang Mushiwe's lightness skill would probably be the best in the world. Thus, the two of them chased each other in the wilderness, running like the wind and moving like smoke. Song Qing-shu suddenly thought of an old joke from the filthy Demon King in his previous life. If you catch me, I'll let you. Therefore, he was suddenly motivated and did not hold back as he used his light body technique to chase after her. It was a pity that Dongfang Mushiwe was a step ahead of him. After chasing for such a long time, although the distance between them was decreasing, it was not realistic for him to catch up in such a short amount of time. Song Qing-shu had no choice but to use so close, yet worlds apart, and appeared in front of her almost instantly. Dongfang Mushiwe was startled when she saw the person who was originally behind her suddenly appear in front of her. However, she immediately realized that this was his skill. She snorted and directly bumped into his chest. Although she didn't use the embroidery needle this time, she still attacked the vital acupoints on his body. Song Qing-shu was shocked. Trying to kill your husband? Dongfang Mushiwe's lips curled up slightly. If you want to take advantage of me, you'll have to beat me first. Then don't blame me for being rude. Song Qing-shu chuckled and also attacked at lightning speed. Dongfang Mushiwe was stunned. She felt that there was an unspeakable secret hidden in his smile. However, she had always been proud and didn't think that she would really lose to him. Thus, she fought with 120% of her energy and wanted to compete with him. However, after a few moves, she was already limp in Song Qing-shu's arms. You're cheating. Dongfang Mushiwe was embarrassed and angry. She didn't expect that she would talk to a man in such a soft tone. Song Qing-shu hugged her alluring body and injected a strand of joyful, vital energy into her body. He smiled and said, "How can you say that I'm cheating? This is obviously the attribute of my cultivation technique. It would be a waste not to use it." Bastard. Dongfang Mushiwe was so angry that she opened her mouth to bite him. However, her red lips were blocked by him in the next moment. Dongfang Mushiwe's body trembled. After a long time, she finally closed her eyes and let him do whatever he wanted. After a while, she tightly grasped his hand that had reached into her clothes. Here? What, are you afraid? Song Qing-shu teased. Dongfang Mushiwe was enraged. Why would I be afraid? Although she didn't want to admit defeat, she still waved her hand after saying that, and a large pile of leaves and branches surrounded them, weaving a simple thatched hut to hide the two of them. Then, there was a faint sound of dispute coming from the haystack. I want to be on top. No. Qian is the sky and Kuan is the earth. I can't mess it up. If you want to be above, you'll have to defeat me next time. I should have killed you when I was in the Forbidden City if I had known this. You didn't show any mercy back then. Today, I'll have my revenge. Then hurry up. We still have to hurry, all right. After an unknown period of time, a cold voice suddenly sounded, directly on the road. It really is a pair of adulterers. A gap immediately appeared in the haystack. Song Qing-shu was surprised and delighted. Jiruo, you're here too? Not far away stood a girl in white, her dress fluttering in the wind. She was as beautiful as an immortal. Who else could it be but Jiruo? Glancing at him, Jiruo snorted coldly and turned her face away. Dongfang Mushiwe also poked her head out from the gap, and a strange smile appeared on her face when she saw Jiruo. So it's sect leader Zhou, long time no see. Jiruo bit her lip lightly. Disheveled clothes, what a scandal. Dongfang Mushiwe twirled her hair with her fingers and said teasingly, Sect leader Zhou, you can join us too. I don't mind. Tui. Jiruo spat on the ground. She was indeed from a demonic sect, and her vulgar language was not to be underestimated. Are you guys done yet? If you're done, Then hurry up and come out to talk business. Dongfang Mushua hugged Song Qingshu provocatively. It's not like you don't know how powerful your man is. How can you be done so soon? Why don't you wait a little longer? Zhou Zhuo's eyebrows twitched involuntarily, and she immediately lashed out with her long whip toward the thatched hut made of leaves. Dongfang Mushue was already prepared. She flicked her fingers, and several embroidery needles shot out, dissolving the menacing whip into nothingness. All right, stop fighting. Seeing the two women fighting, Song Qingshu felt a headache coming on. He hurriedly came out and asked while buttoning his shirt, "Zhuo, why are you here?" Noticing the kiss mark on his chest, Zhou Zhuo's face turned a little colder. "I heard that the Mongolians were attacking Western Xia, and I thought that you would definitely need help here, so I came to take a look. I was in the Sichuan army camp, and this time I was going to the Jin army camp to communicate with them, but I didn't expect to meet you two on the way. Well, we also wanted to go to the Sichuan army camp to discuss and communicate with them." Song Qingshu's face turned hot. No matter how thick-skinned he was, it was still quite embarrassing to be caught red-handed by the Empress. Dongfang Mushue, on the other hand, slowly put on her clothes, as if she was watching a good show. Zhou Zhuo's face was originally cold, but she suddenly took a deep breath, and a warm smile appeared on her face. She walked over and carefully tidied up Song Qingshu's clothes. "I'm not by your side, so it's good to let other women serve you. Your health is more important. Don't suffocate yourself." Song Qingshu was stunned, and for a moment, he didn't know what she was up to. Dongfang Mushue, on the other hand, understood immediately. She was obviously using her as a tool to vent her lust. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but laugh. This woman looked gentle on the surface, but deep down, she was an extremely powerful person. However, with her boldness and style, she naturally disdained to be jealous of other women in the harem. She was just trying to provoke the other party for fun, so naturally, she couldn't be bothered to respond now. Seeing that Dongfang Mushue didn't respond, Zhou Zhuo also blushed. She felt that she had gone too far, and this was too petty. Moreover, the two of them had entered the Qing imperial palace together to seek revenge. Ahem, Song Qingshu also realized that the atmosphere was a little strange, and hurriedly said, "We've already communicated with the Jin kingdom. What's the situation in Sichuan now?" Zhou Zhuo answered, "This time, Shun Xiaolong and Lin Pingji will lead the troops in Sichuan, and Madame Ruan will stay behind to oversee the rear. By the way, Madame Ruan is also one of your people, right?" Ahem. Song Qingshu felt that his throat was particularly itchy today, and said guiltily, I remember telling you before. She's already given birth to your child." Zhou Zhuo said sourly. She actually wanted a child, but the two of them spent more time apart than together, and she never got pregnant. Instead, other women outside gave birth to one after another. Song Qingshu was surprised and happy. These 2 days, good news came one after another. "It's a daughter," and Madame Ruan named her Ishu. As Zhou Zhuo spoke, she felt that her teeth were a little itchy, and she wanted to bite him fiercely. Ishu. Song Qingshu instantly understood Madame Ruan's feelings when she named her daughter, and for a moment, he was filled with emotions. When he came back to his senses, he suddenly realized that with his physique, how could he give birth to so many daughters? In the future, he didn't know which brat would be the lucky one. Sect leader Zhou, you don't have to be envious of others. These 2 days, you should hurry up and fool around with him, and maybe you can also get pregnant. Dongfang Mushue had already tidied up her clothes and walked out. Zhou Zhuo snorted, "I can't be like you guys on the street." Actually, this wasn't a street, but it was still a road in the forest. Occasionally, there would still be people passing by. Just now, when she passed by, she thought that she had bumped into a pair of wild mandarin ducks having an affair here. In the end, when she felt the familiar breath and voice, she realized that it was the two of them. Dongfang Mushue smiled. Sect leader Zhou is too reserved, so you let other women get ahead of you. If you want to get pregnant, you have to use more embarrassing positions in the end. Zhou Zhuo's face instantly turned red, and she looked at her flat belly. You speak as if you have experience. Dongfang Muxue replied, although I don't have experience, don't forget that I am the cult leader of the evil cult. These kinds of things I know more than you people from the Orthodox sections. Zhou Zhiruo was stunned. She thought, could it be true? No wonder I didn't get pregnant before. Seeing that Zhou Zhiruo was almost fooled, Song Qingshu hurriedly interrupted the two of them. Zhou, did you come alone this time? Zhou Zhiruo grunted. After all, there are too many countries in between, so the Green Camp in Yangzhou can't be mobilized. I only chose 100 people with high martial arts skills and brought them here. They are now staying in the Sichuan military camp. Agio and the others originally wanted to come, but considering that the situation in Yangzhou is not stable, she will stay in Yangzhou for me. Qing Qing will continue to take charge of the Golden Snake Camp. As for Miss Run, she is busy persuading the court officials not to take advantage of this opportunity to send troops to Sichuan. Song Qingshu nodded. Although he secretly controlled many countries, because he took shortcuts, it was difficult for him to fully mobilize the power of all sides in the open. Just like the siege of the Western Xia this time, it was a clear example. Soldiers need quality, not quantity, Dongfang Muxue said. This time, the key is Temujin's life and death. It all depends on whether we can solve this problem. You plan to assassinate Temujin? Zhou Zhiruo was shocked. I want to go with you. Dongfang Muxue smiled faintly. Sect leader Zhou, it's not that I look down on you, but although your martial arts skills are not bad, to kill Temujin in the midst of thousands of soldiers is still a bit lacking. We don't want to split our energy to protect you when the time comes. Zhou Zhiruo thought that the other party would explode in anger, but instead of getting angry, she frowned and said, You are right. This assassination of Temujin is of great importance. I can't add to your troubles. How about this? I will stay outside with the Sichuan army to provide support. She knew that in that kind of situation, even a grandmaster would be killed, and only a grandmaster would have the right to participate. Song Qingshu also nodded. Yes, originally we were going to meet up with Shun Xiaolong and the others, but now that you are here, it saves us half the time. I will tell you the plan. When you see the signal, you will attack the Mongolian army in the chaos. If everything goes well, the Mongolians will suffer heavy losses this time. Didn't Zhao Min help you? Zhou Zhiruo suddenly asked. Song Qingshu was surprised for a moment, then realized that she was talking about Zhao Min, thinking that these two were really a pair of enemies. She helped me with many of the details of this plan. He then explained the details of the plan. After listening to the detailed plan, Zhou Zhi nodded repeatedly. At least she has a conscience. But in the end, she still looked worried. Qingshu, Temujin is also a grandmaster, and he has many experts under his command. You will most likely die this time, so you must be very careful. Song Qingshu smiled and comforted her. It's not that exaggerated. We have planned everything, and there should be a 60 to 70% chance of success. The rest is up to the will of the heavens. Zhou Fa then bowed to Dongfang Muxue solemnly. I will have to trouble you to protect him along the way. Dongfang Muxue smiled. Originally, I was thinking of running away as soon as the situation got out of hand, but sect leader Zhou begged me like this. How about this? As long as you call me sister when you see me in the future, I will consider it. Zhou Zhiruo hesitated. She knew that this was not just a simple form of address, but had many other meanings. But she still nodded and said, Okay, it's a deal. This time, it was Dongfang Muxue's turn to be surprised. Then she smiled and said, Forget it. I have no interest in fighting with you women. How about this? Let me sleep with you for one night after the mission. Finally, Zhou Zhiruo could not take it anymore and directly spat on the ground, blushing, and ignored her. Song Qingshu was speechless. After saying goodbye to Zhou Zhiruo, he grabbed Dongfang Muxue by the collar and flew north. Seeing that I've grown so much in the past few days, shouldn't you go and buy the new book, The Land Fairy? Chapter 2489. Song Qingshu heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Yuan Zi and Kazli were still waiting for him outside Xingqing Prefecture City. He was afraid that something would happen to them in such a chaotic situation. If that happened, his subsequent plans would be in vain. Big Brother Song. Casley threw herself into Song Qingshu's arms. It was clear that she had been watching the might of the Mongolian army in the distance, and she was at a loss for what to do. Now that she finally saw him, she immediately felt at ease. After all, she had learned the Mongolian language for some time. It was not a problem for her to have such a short conversation. Song Qingshu patted her shoulder and comforted her. At the side, Dongfang Mushue's eyes widened. There's really such a devastatingly beautiful woman in the world. It's no wonder that there have been many cases of men getting angry for a beauty in history. Song Qingshu could not help but say, "You're not bad either. You'll be sought after by countless people in the world." Dongfang Mushue shook her head. That's not the same. Her beauty isn't offensive at all. No man would be on their guard when they see her. Even a woman like me feels pitiful when I see her, and I feel an urge to do anything for her. It's really strange. Yuan Zi, who was at the side, was also a little shocked by Dongfang Mushue's aura. She only came back to her senses now. Brother Song, this is... Song Qingshu hurriedly introduced her to them. After knowing that she was cult master Dongfang, who had once shocked the world, Yuan Zi was speechless for a long time. It's too risky to let Casley go to the Mongolian army camp. Why don't you let me disguise myself as her? It'll be easier for us to work together. Dongfang Mushue was stunned after saying that. Why did she subconsciously not want Casley to be hurt? This young lady's temperament was really magical. Song Qingshu shook his head. I've thought of this method before, but Casley's appearance has gathered the essence of the world. Every part of her has reached the most extreme balance, forming the most extreme beauty. Changing even the slightest bit would easily destroy her natural beauty. It's not a big problem for me to disguise other people, but it's hard for me to be 100% accurate when I disguise her. If there's even the slightest mistake, she'll give off a sense of disharmony, and it'll easily attract the Mongolian suspicion. So, I can only let her take the risk. Dongfang Mushue nodded to herself. What he said made sense. Casley's beauty was indeed difficult to imitate. Yuan Zi had been translating at the side. Casley answered, "Brother Song, I'm not afraid. This is not only for Brother Song, but also for our brothers and sisters who died on the prairie." Song Qingshu said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, Casley. I'll definitely protect you and not let anything happen to you." He then said to Yuan Zi, "Zi, I might have to trouble you to go with us. After all, it's hard for us to communicate with Casley. I'll definitely protect the two of you." Yuan Zi smiled and said, "Brother Song, you don't have to be so polite. Even Casley has the courage to go. How can I not go? I grew up in the western region and have seen too many killings by the Mongolians. I've always wanted to do something. Now that I have the chance, I'll certainly do my part." Dongfang Mushue, who was standing at the side, said with a teasing smile, "You're quite popular with girls. Don't worry, little beauty. I'll also protect you when the time comes." "Thank you." Yuan Zi was flattered, but she felt that Dongfang Mushue was looking at her weirdly. Song Qingshu said to Dongfang Mushue, "I'm going to Xingqing Prefecture to inform the people there. You should take this opportunity to disguise yourself. After all, you're so beautiful in female clothes. If you enter the Mongolian camp and arouse the lust of some people, it'll be easy to cause trouble." Dongfang Mushue stretched out her hand and pinched in the air. She snorted and said, "Whoever dares to have evil thoughts about me, I'll let him practice the Sunflower Treasure Book." However, although she said so, she didn't actually resist disguising herself. Anyway, she had always been dressed as a man. Even Song Qingshu couldn't see through her disguise. Song Qingshu only felt a chill between his legs. After bidding farewell to the girls, he quickly rushed into Xingqing Manor and met with Mu Wanqing and the others. He told them the details of what was to come, such as when to cooperate, and so on. Then, he took a large pile of materials needed for the disguise and left the city without stopping. At this time, Dongfang Mushue had already changed into a man's dress. She was the familiar cult master of the devil cult. Song Qingshu was speechless and said, "If you dress like this, Everyone will know that you're going to assassinate someone. Without any explanation, he pushed her to the side and sat her down. Then, he began to put on makeup for her. Soon, a domineering underworld tycoon with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes became an ordinary passerby in the crowd. Seeing her appearance in the mirror, Dongfang Mushua snorted and said, "This is really degrading my prestige." "Forget it. I'll just put up with it this time." Song Qingshu smiled and turned to look at Yuan Zi for a while. "Zi, you don't need to disguise yourself. Just maintain your original identity and appearance. Just think of it as my captive from the Wooden Table Luan tribe. Let's compare our statements so that we won't be exposed." Dongfang Mushua frowned. "Aren't you afraid that someone will be lustful after seeing her beauty?" Song Qingshu replied, "Since she is now my slave, she is naturally one of my people. Who in the Mongolian camp would be stupid enough to offend me?" Now that the top experts in the Mongolian camp were either dead or injured, the only one who could suppress the Shueiyue clan was Basiba. Moreover, he was a monk, and Temujin would never steal the women of his subordinates. Therefore, with this identity, Yuan Zi's safety was naturally guaranteed. "Zi, you don't mind, do you?" Song Qingshu asked to confirm. Yuan Zi blushed and shook her head. For some reason, even though it was clearly fake, when she heard that she would be his woman, her heart seemed to beat faster. "I just received the latest news from Xingqing Prefecture. Just as we guessed, Temujin has led an army to the Qingtang region to attack the Siluo. Let's follow him now and find an opportunity to show up again." Song Qingshu knew that they had to show up at the right time. If they were too early, they wouldn't be able to fight with the Siluo. But it was too late. The Mongolians had already conquered the Siluo. If they showed up again, they wouldn't be able to borrow the Siluo's strength. After that, they followed the Mongolian army from afar and rehearsed the details of what would happen after they entered the Mongolian camp. Time passed day by day. News came from the front that the Mongolian army had already engaged in a fierce battle with the Siluo. The Siluo lost the first battle and retreated to the Lupan Mountains, hoping to use the terrain to reduce the Mongolian cavalry's advantage. Temujin still led his army to pursue them all the way to Mount Lupan. During their expedition to the west, when they attacked the Persian Ming cult, the mountains there had been conquered even more, so they were not afraid of the enemy's plans. However, the Siluo was an ambitious and ruthless character. For the time being, they held their ground, and the Mongolians couldn't do anything about it. Song Qingshu had Dongfang Mushua take care of the two girls while he quietly snuck into the Siluo's camp and had a long private talk with him. The Siluo was initially baffled by this unexpected disaster, but when he found out that the Mongolians had colluded with the great chieftain of Qingtang, Wen Diqi, to seize the opportunity to take over his territory, he was so angry that his balls almost exploded. Song Qingshu didn't reveal too many details. It was enough for him to give some advice. With the Siluo's ruthlessness, he would naturally know what to do when the time came. He then met up with Dongfang Mushua, changed into the attire of the Shueiyue clan, and entered the Mongolian camp with Kazli. When he learned from his soldiers that Temujin was meeting with the Siluo's emissary, Song Qingshu was startled. His first reaction was that the Siluo had sold him out. But he quickly realized that based on their speed, the other party's emissary couldn't possibly be faster than him, which meant that this batch of emissaries had been sent before. Moreover, even if the Siluo sold him out, he wouldn't be able to sell any information because he had taken precautions and didn't reveal any key information to the Siluo. Soon, a soldier came to take them to see Temujin. When they arrived near his tent, they saw two people sparring in the distance. Duan Yanqing, wielding two iron staffs with slightly golden hair. Who else could it be but Duan Yanqing? His opponent was someone they had met during the Western Xiao marriage contest. It was the Siluo's grand preceptor, an expert of Tantra Buddhism, Li Lizuan. The two of them fought back and forth fiercely. It could be said that they were evenly matched, and it was difficult to tell who would win. Shueiyue, you're back. Haha, just in time. Let's see who will win. Temujin was sitting on a wide chair, holding a glass of wine in one hand and waving at him with a smile. Their martial arts skills are about the same, and I'm afraid they won't be able to tell the winner in a short period of time, Song Qingshu replied. When I went to the Woodtable Luan tribe this time, I found that the brothers were killing each other. Bodo had already surrendered to the Khan, so I didn't go and get the Treaty of Alliance from the 36 tribes. It's no longer necessary. Ba Siba, who was standing next to Temujin, said, Bodo was killed by Song Qingshu. Do you know that? Song Qingshu's heart skipped a beat. He shook his head and said, When I arrived, Song Qingshu and the others had already left. Temujin waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. Even if you went, you wouldn't be able to beat Song Qingshu. Anyway, the Woodtable Luan tribe has been pacified. It's better that he killed Bodo, and I can directly send people to take over the southern region. Song Qingshu continued. On my way back this time, I ran into a group of Deciluo warriors. Out of curiosity, I rescued a girl from under their hands. After asking, I found out that the girl was Princess Fragrance, whom Bodo had offered to the Khan. Temujin, who was originally listening attentively to the battle in the field, hurriedly turned his head. Oh, where is she? Song Qingshu clapped his hands, and Dongfang Mushiwe and Yuan Zi brought Kazli over. At this time, the sun was setting, and the girl's hair, face, hands, and clothes were all bathed in the afterglow of the setting sun. Along the way, thousands of Mongolian warriors stared at the girl in a daze. Everyone's heart suddenly began to beat violently. Be it the officers or the soldiers, they were all intoxicated by the light of this peerless beauty. Duan Yanqing and Li Lizuan, who were fighting fiercely in the field, happened to catch a glimpse of the beautiful figure in white. Suddenly, as if they were possessed, the two of them froze. The image of her figure lingered in front of their eyes, and they felt a sense of warmth and tranquility in their hearts. How could they still have the slightest desire to fight? With a clang, the wine cup in Temujin's hand fell to the ground. He stared blankly at the girl in white who was slowly walking towards him. The other Mongolian warriors were even worse off. The spears in their hands all fell to the ground. If even the Khan was like this, how could the officers dare to stop him? Moreover, they were also stunned by the girl's beauty and could not say anything for a moment. Originally, the Mongolian camp was filled with murderous intent, but with the appearance of Kazli, the entire camp became peaceful. There is actually such a beautiful woman in this world, Temujin muttered to himself. It is just as Bai Fenghua said, she really is a goddess descended from the heavens. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he glared fiercely at Li Lizuan and his men. How dare you, Si Luo? How dare you steal my woman? He was already very angry when he heard about this. But now that he had seen Kazli's beauty with his own eyes and smelled the enchanting fragrance in the air, he was even more furious. How could such an unparalleled beauty have almost been taken by Si Luo? Just thinking about this made him furious. Men, kill them all. Yes, sir. The warriors closest to him all drew their swords and charged at Li Lizuan and the other Si Luo messengers. Li Lizuan and his men's expressions changed drastically. They wanted to explain, but it was already too late. They could only draw their swords and defend themselves. But these warriors were the Jie Shui's most elite guards. 3 to 5 of them formed a formation to attack one person, and in the blink of an eye, Li Lizuan's companions were all killed. Song Qingshu recognized some of them. He had seen some of them before during the marriage selection in Western Xia. They were the experts of the Qinghai sect brought by Si Luo's side. Each and every one of them was quite accomplished in swordsmanship, but he did not expect to be defeated so miserably by the Jie Shui's guards. In the blink of an eye, Li Lizuan's body was also covered with wounds. With a roar, he found an opening and rushed out, wanting to escape. A group of Jie Shui's arrow guards drew their bows and instantly turned him into a hedgehog. Seeing the expert who was on par with him just a moment ago being killed so easily, Duan Yanqing's face turned deathly pale. His body swayed, and he almost fell. Song Qingshu and Dongfang Mushiwe exchanged a glance. Even if they were to face these guards and arrow guards head-on, it would be somewhat troublesome. It seems that they must be more careful this time. I feel like I'm getting longer and longer. Chapter 2490. Reporting to the Great Khan. Dasiluo's men have been executed. Two generals reported to Temujin. Having been in Mongolia for so long, Song Qingshu naturally recognized them. One was Levi, the leader of the Imperial Guards. He was highly skilled in martial arts and had been Temujin's bodyguard for many years, saving him from danger many times. The other was the leader of the Quiver warriors, Dolos. He was the son of Jeeb and had inherited his father's skills in archery. In terms of archery, he was not inferior to Guojing. Temujin laughed. These border people dared to offend the Mongolian heavenly kingdom. They deserved to die. He then looked greedily at Kazli's beautiful face. Princess Fragrance, I have avenged you. Are you happy? Kazli was a kind-hearted person. When she saw how Li Lizuan and the others had died, her face paled and she furrowed her brows. In Temujin's eyes, it was as if she was dissatisfied with what he had done. Temujin's face darkened. Yuanzi hurriedly said, reporting to the Great Khan, Kazli only knows the Hui language and does not understand what the Great Khan is saying. Oh! Only then did Temujin's face relax a little. Noticing that Yuanzi was also pretty and radiant, Temujin's heart skipped a beat. He did not expect to see such a beauty here, so he looked at Song Qingshu inquiringly. Shueiwa, this is... Song Qingshu replied. She is a slave I captured from the Wooden Table Luan tribe. She is proficient in the Hui language and Chinese, so I kept her by my side as a translator. He secretly glanced around and found that Bai Yejing, Lai Rian, and the other masters of Destiny's sect were not here. He secretly let out a sigh of relief. Although he was not afraid of them, they had seen Yuanzi before. If they questioned him, it would be troublesome to explain. Judging from the current situation, they should be staying outside Xingqing with Ali Buch. In addition, the masters under Kublai's command were also there. Temujin's guards were indeed unprecedentedly weak. Of course, this was only relative. Even these 2,000 Imperial Guards and Quiver warriors who had not reached the level of Grandmaster would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Hearing that it was his slave, Temujin frowned and sighed inwardly. However, he did not say anything else. Then send Princess Fragrance to my tent and make her the fragrant concubine. The rest of the warriors cheered and congratulated Kazli. At the same time, they kowtowed to Kazli, leaving her at a loss. Song Qingshu did not expect that Kazli would become the fragrant imperial concubine in the end. He thought that the inertia of fate was really scary. He secretly sent a telepathic message to comfort Kazli, telling her that Dongfang Mushiwe would protect her. After learning the Echo language for a few days, he still knew how to say such simple words. Only then did Kazli gradually calm down. Song Qingshu took the opportunity to say to Temujin, Great Khan, since we have obtained such a peerless concubine today, why don't we hold a feast so that everyone can share in the Great Khan's happiness? Temujin laughed. Well said. Temujin laughed. Pass down my order to prepare a feast. Also, split the army into 3 shifts and keep a close eye on the movements of the Muscovites. As expected of a peerless general, even though he was extremely happy, he did not forget to take precautions. Song Qingshu breathed a sigh of relief. He had been worried that Temujin would not agree, but it seemed that Kazli's beauty was indeed too great for Temujin to get carried away. Of course, the fact that Mongolian nobles loved to drink was probably one of the main reasons. Soon, a group of soldiers came to set up the feast. Song Qingshu, on the other hand, tried to keep toasting Temujin. Temujin's alcohol tolerance was good to begin with, so he did not refuse any of the toasts. The other generals were even more eager to curry favor with him. Duan Yanqing and the others who had just joined Temujin did everything they could to become familiar with him. Song Qingshu held a jar of wine and went around urging people to drink. He had originally wanted to take the opportunity to persuade the guards and arrow quiver soldiers to drink, but seeing that they were all as still as mountains and did not participate in the feast, he knew that this was a matter of discipline. He did not dare to be too obvious to avoid arousing suspicion. The atmosphere became more and more lively. Cup after cup, Temujin drank until he was dizzy. Great Khan, drink less. Your health is more important. Bathsheba comforted him from the side. He did not know why, but he had a strange feeling in his heart. But now that the Mongolians were invincible and surrounded by Mongolian masters and soldiers, he could not think of any danger. Temujin waved his hand. "Don't worry, my alcohol tolerance is very good." After a while, Bathsheba tried another way to persuade him. "Great Khan has just obtained the fragrant consort. If you get drunk like this, wouldn't it be a waste of such a beautiful night?" Kazli's beautiful face appeared in Temujin's mind, as well as her youthful and pure temperament. Anyone who saw her would want to press her under their body and ravage her. As the saying goes, wine is the medium of sex. Now that he was half drunk, he felt his whole body stiffen. He chuckled. "Not bad. The Imperial Preceptor is right. I will leave this to the Imperial Preceptor to handle. I will go and pamper the fragrant consort now, huh?" With that, he stood up shakily and walked toward his own tent. Song Qingshu frowned and also quietly left the banquet. Bathsheba's eyes narrowed, but when he saw Song Qingshu walk in the other direction, he relaxed. He was probably going to relieve himself. Leaving Bathsheba's sight, Song Qingshu's shaky figure instantly straightened up, then quickly ran through the camp like a bolt of lightning. Most of the soldiers were at the bonfire party, and another group of soldiers were guarding against the fighting outside. As a result, the defense inside the camp was relatively weak. Although there were still many patrolling soldiers, how could they stop a grandmaster like him? He quietly went to the gunpowder warehouse. Although the Mongolian army mainly relied on mounted archery, they had learned to use gunpowder in their battles with the Western countries. They also had some guns and cannons. Song Qingshu gently put some black iron balls in. These are the thunderbolt bullets he got from Zhou Zhirua. Although they were not as powerful as cannonballs, they were easy to carry. He then ran to the granary and put some more. At the last moment, he did not use gentle force, but threw them in and detonated them. There was a boom. The thunderbolt bullets from before were detonated one after another, and the granary was instantly set on fire. The surrounding soldiers hurriedly sounded the alarm and brought water to save them. It was a mess in an instant. The people who were drinking at the bonfire party also heard it and stood up shakily. What happened? Bathsheba, who was the most sober among them, suddenly stood up and hurriedly ordered, "Everyone, return to your duties and prevent the enemy from invading. In addition, Lamy, take some people to protect the Khan." Yes, many people were mostly sober. When they were about to leave, suddenly there was a loud noise and balls of fire exploded under their seats. It turned out that when Song Qingshu was toasting, he conveniently placed the thunderbolt bullets onto their seats. Now that these people hurriedly got up and moved their seats, someone was bound to accidentally step on them. The thunderbolt bullets had a trigger mechanism. Once they were shaken, they would explode, and then the other thunderbolt bullets would also explode. The soldiers on the scene instantly suffered heavy casualties. Boom! Another muffled explosion sounded out, causing the entire camp to shake. It turned out that the thunderbolt flame bullets in the gunpowder warehouse had also been detonated. This explosion was no small matter, and many soldiers nearby were directly killed by the shockwaves. Bathsheba turned pale with fright. With his martial arts, he was able to dodge the explosion at the banquet in time. Now that he had no time to check on the injured, he immediately took some people to check the granary and the gunpowder warehouse. As for Temujin, he was not too worried. After all, the Khan was a grandmaster, and he had the guards of the Imperial Guard and the Quiver Warrior. Who in the world could hurt him? Meanwhile, when Temujin drunkenly returned to the main tent, he found Kazli sitting quietly on the couch, like a jade statue of a fairy. He had seen many beauties over the years. Empresses, princesses, he had slept with countless of them, but none were as beautiful as the girl in front of him. Concubine fragrance, serve me well, and I will make you the fifth Han or duo. Temujin laughed as he walked towards her. Word duo meant the tent of the empress. The previous four empresses were either the first wife, or they had followed the monarch in conquering the north and south and achieved great merits, or they came from powerful families. For someone like Kazli, who was made empress as soon as she arrived, it was all because of her beauty. Casley did not understand what he was saying, so she quickly babbled something. Even though her tone was a little panicked, it still sounded gentle and pleasant. Temujin also did not understand what she was saying, but he did not need to understand. After so many years, he had slept with countless concubines from different countries, and he often faced this problem of language barriers. But what did that matter? No matter what language, it was all the same. Seeing Princess Sweet Fragrance acting like a frightened rabbit, Temujin's desire to conquer her rose uncontrollably. At that moment, he just wanted to press the girl under his body and ride her to his heart's content. She had a strange fragrance on her body, and he wondered if the fragrance would grow stronger when he was aroused. Thinking about this, his desire grew even stronger. Like a tiger pouncing on its prey, he pinned Princess Sweet Fragrance down and reached out to tear off her clothes. At that moment, he was suddenly alarmed and hurriedly dodged to the side. Unfortunately, he was half drunk and his body's reflexes were still affected, so he was still stabbed in the back by his opponent. Temujin roared in anger. His drunkenness was also greatly awakened, and he quickly retreated. But Dongfang Mushiwe had been lying in ambush for a long time. Now that she had found an opportunity to attack, how could she let him leave so easily? A red shadow had been circling around him, attacking him incessantly. Temujin roared again and again, but his opponent was too fast. Every attack landed on empty air, and, on the contrary, a few more acupoints on his body were punctured by his opponent. He knew that if this continued, all the acupoints on his body would be punctured. When that happened, he would be like a leaking balloon, and all the energy in his body would be drained. Where the hell did this Grandmaster come from? Temujin was shocked. His opponent's speed and power were not inferior to his at all. On top of that, Temujin was caught unawares, causing him to fall into a passive position. If it weren't for his years of training in mountains of corpses and seas of blood, he might have lost his life just now. Thinking about this, he no longer dared to hold back. He immediately summoned his sea of blood and bones to protect himself. At the same time, a monstrous sea of blood wrapped around his opponent. As long as he was entangled by his sea of blood, even a grandmaster would be turned into nothingness. Dongfang Mushiwe's eyes narrowed. Even though she had heard Song Qingshu talk about his methods before, she was still shocked to see it herself. Her instincts told her that this sea of blood and bones was extremely dangerous, and she did not dare to touch it. Her body completely ignored the laws of physics, moving left and right, up and down, as if she was teleporting. While dodging the sea of blood around her, she continued to attack Temujin. Temujin soon felt a numbing sensation all over his body. He immediately realized that his opponent had smeared poison on the tip of the needles. Thinking about this, he was both shocked and angry. You're a grandmaster, and you're smearing poison on your weapon? Do you have any shame? Dongfang Mushiwe, on the other hand, sighed in pity. The tip of the needles had been smeared with Ouyang Feng's meticulously concocted poison. Normally, it would kill upon contact, but after reaching the level of a grandmaster, one would be immune to all poisons. If not for Ouyang Feng's poison, Temujin might not have been affected at all. If only he had the golden moonflower. Even Song Qingshu had almost died from that poison. Temujin would not fare much better if he encountered it. Unfortunately, he had been in too much of a hurry and had no time to prepare. Temujin quickly gave up on attacking his opponent. His opponent's movements were too ghostly, and he couldn't even touch the hem of his clothes. Rather than that, he might as well focus on defense. As long as his subordinates arrived, everything would be settled. However, a question arose in his mind. Why hadn't anyone arrived after so long? In actuality, Zeliel had heard the commotion inside the tent and was just about to rush over with the palace guards when a cold, spinning light flashed by, and a large number of the palace guards at the very front were killed. In an instant, dozens of them had fallen. Zeliel was shocked. Every one of the palace guards was a top-notch fighter in the Jianghu, and all of them were experts in combined attacks. How could so many of them be killed in a single exchange? Just who was this person? But when he saw his opponent's face, he couldn't help but be shocked and angry. Shuewa sect, what are you doing? Song Qing-shu didn't say anything else and directly used the Shuei saber to execute the divine saber slash. The full moon saber slash was inherently demonic and murderous, making it perfect for situations like this. Basically, it could kill a person with one slash, just like cutting vegetables. If this was a normal army, they would have collapsed a long time ago. But these were the most elite warriors of the Qing Shui, and each of them charged forward without fear of death. Song Qingshu frowned. These people were experts in combined attacks. At the beginning, he could kill one with one slash, but now, his slash would often be blocked by the other's combined attacks, and the damage would be evenly distributed. No wonder Li Lizuan and the Qinghai sect were almost instantly wiped out by them. But Song Qingshu was still a grandmaster. He found the right opportunity, and, while the crowd was surrounding him, used the divine saber slash. Dozens of meters of void energy instantly cut hundreds of palace guards in half. With this move, even Song Qingshu felt that it took a lot of energy and couldn't keep using it. It still couldn't compare to the martial arts that he was skilled in. While the power of the divine saber slash was not inferior to his sword energy, it was still lacking when it came to group attacks. But in his plan, his identity was crucial and related to the Mongolian strategy. So even though it was difficult, he still didn't reveal his true martial arts. But he was a grandmaster after all. No matter if it was in terms of movement or martial arts, these guards couldn't make up for it. He quickly changed his strategy and avoided clashing head-on with the guards. Instead, he used the speed of his movement to instantly appear from the side and slash. While the Imperial Guard's combined attack was powerful, it also had a weakness. If one person was missing, the formation would instantly collapse. At this time, Boris had already arrived with the quiver soldiers. Looking at the situation, he knocked an arrow and aimed at the figure that was flying up and down. Song Qingshu felt a sense of foreboding. Even he would not be able to bear the consequences if he was hit by an arrow that was comparable to Guo Jing's. Just as he was about to dodge, a huge green sword shadow suddenly fell from the sky and landed in the midst of the Quiver Warriors' camp. The Quiver Warriors were instantly thrown off their feet, and more than half of them were killed or injured. Even Volos died on the spot. Aching! Song Qingshu's heart jumped. How could he not recognize this familiar feeling? At this time, a slender girl in green clothes appeared on the tall flagpole. She held a green bamboo stick in her hand. Clearly, the terrifying sword energy had come from this ordinary stick of hers. Big brother, can you give up on today's operation? Aching stared straight at Song Qingshu. Her intelligent eyes seemed to see through the mask on his face. Since there's been another increase today, come to Zongheng and cast a monthly vote for my new book, The Land Fairy. I want to rush up the monthly vote rankings and show my face. The number of collections right now is too pitiful. Dizzy face. Chapter 2491. Song Qingshu was surprised, but he wasn't surprised that she could see through his disguise. After all, she was a legendary character, and the tricks of the world couldn't escape her eyes. Qing, what kind of operation are you talking about? Song Qingshu tried to take advantage of the situation. Qing's confused eyes suddenly turned cold, as if she was looking at the ants in the world. Her voice was emotionless. Temujin is the original Run Huang of this world, and no other factors are allowed to interfere. Seeing that she had turned back into the persona of the Empyrean fairy, Song Qingshu gave up on the small talk and said lightly, "Who decided to be the Ren Huang?" Qing glanced at him. "This is the arrangement of fate." "One arrangement of fate," Song Qingshu laughed. "Was it fate that I came to this world? If that's the case, then it's fate that I killed him." Qing calculated with her fingers. Your background is indeed a bit strange. Even I can't see your past. But I am responsible for protecting the fate of the Ren Huang, so I will not allow you to do as you please. If you insist on being stubborn, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Heaven and earth are heartless, treating all living things like straw dogs. Do you have any feelings in your current appearance? Song Qingshu shook his head. Qing stood with her hands behind her back, revealing a mature temperament that didn't match her petite and pretty appearance. No matter what, if you dare to act recklessly today, only death awaits you. Song Qingshu frowned. Then can I go in and have a word with Temujin? Okay. Qing hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. With Temujin's level of cultivation, even if he went in, he wouldn't be able to kill him in a short amount of time. Once he made a move, she could immediately stop him. After all, the other consciousness in her body was still quite close to him, and unless she had no other choice, she didn't want to fight with him. Song Qingshu entered the tent and found Dongfang Muxue standing in a circle with Temujin. Her figure was like a ghost, like thunder and lightning, circling around Temujin and attacking him from all directions. However, Temujin's blood sea and bones made her quite wary of him. Although Dongfang Muxue had the upper hand due to her sneak attack, it would be extremely difficult to kill him. That person is here? Dongfang Muxue's voice sounded. Song Qingshu grunted. His expression was solemn, and it was obvious that he was thinking about something. Temujin laughed heartily. I'm the current emperor of the world, and I have great fortune to protect me. If you surrender now and swear fealty to me, I can let bygones be bygones. The conversation between the two of them had clearly entered his ears. Back then in Peerless City, he already knew that he was the human emperor chosen by heaven's will. Now that he had received confirmation once again, his pride surged, and even his blood sea became more vigorous. Dongfang Muxue was forced to retreat. A smile suddenly appeared on Song Qingshu's face. Actually, I alone am enough to kill you. The reason why I called her along is to guard against any sudden changes. Temujin suddenly had a bad feeling. What do you mean? Song Qingshu closed his eyes. Ever since I saw the fairy of the ninth heaven in Peerless City, I've been worried that she would come out and cause trouble today. Do you think I'm not prepared? Temujin grinned. So what if you're prepared? Even if you two work together, you won't be able to defeat her. Besides, I'm also a grandmaster. Do you think you can kill me right under her nose? Why not? Song Qingshu's eyes suddenly opened. In his pupils, there was a vague image of a little golden man performing swordsmanship. Then, as if it had a physical body, it jumped out of his eyes and grew larger and larger. It quickly flew towards Temujin. Oh no! Ah Qing, who had been resting outside, was also startled awake. With a light tap of his foot, he hurriedly flew into the tent. Inside the tent, Temujin's scalp went numb. All the hairs on his body stood on end. Unable to stop Dongfang Muxue, he immediately used all the blood sea and bones in front of him in an attempt to stop the little golden man. Unfortunately, the ever-successful blood sea and bones seemed to have no effect at all. The little golden man passed through the blood sea and bones as if it was transparent, and then penetrated through his body. At that moment, a distant, cold, and emotionless ballad seemed to ring in his ears. The Zhao guest wears the tassel of a beard, and the Wu hook is as bright as the snow. The silver saddle shines on the white horse like a shooting star. 10 steps to kill a man, 1,000 miles unstoppable. After the deed is done, he brushes his robe and leaves, hiding his identity and name. Being penetrated by the little golden man, Temujin's eyes, which were usually as bright as an eagle's, suddenly dimmed, and he lost all signs of life. Ah Qing came in just in time to see this scene. He immediately flew into a rage. You're courting death. Immediately, a shocking sword aura pierced towards Song Qingshu. Watch out! Dongfang Muxue hurriedly stood in front of him. A strange purple sunflower bloomed around her and blocked the sword aura. The purple sunflower was instantly shattered by the sword aura, but the sword aura also dissipated by more than half. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Dongfang Muxue's beautiful face instantly became extremely pale. By now, Song Qingshu had already regained his senses. He grabbed her waist and protected her behind him. Then, he also condensed a sword aura and dispersed the remaining sword aura. Leave her to me. You take Kazli and Yuan Zi and get out. Song Qingshu quickly said to Dongfang Muxue. Then, With a light push, he sent her to the side with a gentle force. Then, he gave Ah Ching a provocative look. If you want to settle the score, come with me. With that, he rushed out of the tent. Ah Ching's face was as cold as ice. With a light tap of his foot, he also flew out. You're dead. As soon as Song Ching Shu left the tent, he circulated his internal energy and shouted, Temujin has been killed by the Shueiyue clan. The biggest opponent of Dong Ying's entry into the Central Plains has been eliminated. Cherry blossoms will bloom all over the Central Plains. Long live the Emperor. Bakiyaru. Ah Ching, who was chasing after him. The Mongolian camp was originally in chaos, but his chi was incredible, and his voice still traveled clearly into everyone's ears. At the instant they heard his words, the Mongolian camp, which was originally in chaos, sank into a short period of silence. The Khan was dead? How was that possible? The Khan was invincible. How could he be dead? Everyone's first reaction was disbelief, but they still subconsciously rushed toward Temujin's main tent. But when they saw the panicked expressions of the remaining arrow guards and guards, their hearts skipped a beat. The shocking news of Temujin's death could not be kept a secret. Very quickly, the news spread to every corner of the Central Plains. The Khan was really dead. Temujin was the totem and religion of all the Mongolians. When they heard of his death, everyone's mind went blank. Some even sat on the ground and started crying. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! The thundering of horse hooves and the sounds of battle came from all directions. Clearly, Si Luo had heard the commotion in the Mongolian camp and had led his men to attack. The Mongolian camp was already in chaos because of the explosions in the supply and ammunition stores. More than half of the generals were either killed or injured in the bonfire, so the entire command system was in chaos. Temujin had divided the army into 3 shifts, so at least half of the army was unharmed and should have been enough to deal with Si Luo's attack. But the news of Temujin's death came at this time, and everyone broke down. Fear was contagious, and it spread like wildfire. Then the Mongolian camp was in chaos. Under the technological environment of ancient times, explosions at night were the most terrifying. Once an explosion occurred, even hundreds of thousands of soldiers would be wiped out in minutes. Even though Basiba and the others tried their best to control the situation, it was already beyond their control. In the end, he could only steal Temujin's body and flee with the rest of the army. The Mongolian army suffered heavy losses in this battle, but Temujin's death was the most shocking thing in the world. Song Ching Shu didn't know any of this. He had already done what he could. As long as Si Luo wasn't an idiot, he should be able to seize this opportunity. At this time, he was running at top speed in the forest to avoid being pursued. His Qigong was the best in the world, and theoretically, no one should be able to catch up to him. But after running for dozens of miles, he still couldn't shake off the green figure behind him. How would I know this guy isn't human? Song Ching Shu was filled with emotion. In fact, he didn't know what Ah Ching was either. Was she the innocent girl who raised sheep, or the projection of the consciousness of a deity from heaven? Did deities really exist in this world? He suddenly remembered that when he used up all his martial arts and went to Tubo to seek medical help, Chu Fian had mentioned to him on the way. In the secret chamber of Blackwood Cliff, there was a vague mention of people who had seen the legend of the goddess of the ninth heaven. At that time, he thought it was just a ghost story, but now he knew it was real. How long are you going to keep chasing me? Song Ching Shu was also very helpless. You broke the destiny of the human emperor, and you will be punished by heaven. Ah Ching's face was cold, and there was anger in her eyes. She had been fooled by this ant. She didn't expect him to be able to kill a great master in a second. That seemed to be the inheritance of the poem Immortal. God's execution, is it just you? Song Ching Shu asked. Ah Ching sneered and said, I alone am enough to kill you. Song Ching Shu turned around and said, Then I am relieved. Seeing that he couldn't escape, he might as well save some energy to fight the enemy. Now that things had come to this, there was no need for him to disguise himself. He took off the mask of the Water Moon Great Sect and revealed his original face. Seeing that he was going to fight her, Ah Ching had a sarcastic smile on her face. Your martial arts are really good, and I am afraid no one can be your opponent at this time. But you're still not as good as me." Song Qingshu smiled slightly and said, "That may not be true." Qing humphed and didn't want to talk nonsense with him. She waved her bamboo stick, and a sword energy that was dozens of meters long came sweeping out. Song Qingshu was speechless. This woman really wasn't human. Such a huge sword energy came out of nowhere as if it didn't cost money. He could also use such a huge sword energy, but it would consume a lot of energy. He wouldn't be able to withstand such a torment. Facing the sword energy that could destroy heaven and earth, Song Qingshu's body flashed, and he used his movement skills to avoid the sword energy attack. He has touched the threshold of space. Qing was surprised. She also gave up on the idea of using the huge sword energy to attack. Instead, she raised her bamboo stick and stabbed at her opponent. The two of them fought back and forth in the air. If someone was watching from the side, they would be shocked to find that they seemed to completely violate the laws of physics. They kept flashing in the air, and their swordplay had completely abandoned the complicated and fancy tricks of the Jianghu. It was completely simple stabbing. How to use the shortest distance and the fastest speed to stab the opponent's vital points. After exchanging nearly 100 moves, the two of them suddenly separated. At this time, Song Qingshu's entire body was covered in wounds from head to toe. There were many wounds on his body caused by the green bamboo stick. Blood flowed out and stained his long gown with blood. Qing's green dress fluttered in the wind. She stood there elegantly, and there were no injuries on her body at all. You can be proud of yourself for being able to take so many of my attacks. But I said that you will definitely die today. Song Qingshu wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth, but his face was full of smiles. "I'll let you stab me so many times just now. I will stab you back later." Qing laughed coldly. "I'm afraid you don't have that ability." Just as she was about to continue attacking, her expression suddenly changed. His body couldn't take it anymore, and he had to take some time to relax. Speaking of which, today wasn't considered short, right? Chapter 2492. What's going on? She sensed that something was wrong with her body. She felt weak all over, and there was a strange feeling rising from the depths of her body. A stream of heat spread through her limbs and bones, making her tremble in her soul. Song Qingshu answered, "Have you forgotten how you lost to me in the Golden Snake meeting?" Qing was stunned. She hurriedly searched through her memory, and her expression changed. "Huanqi genuine qi, you shameless guy." There were actually two consciousnesses in her body. Most of the time, it was Qing, the shepherd girl, and her own consciousness would come out occasionally. She was not interested in Qing's daily life, so she didn't know about this and suffered a great loss just now. She finally understood why Qin Haodong wanted to have a close combat with her. It turned out that he wanted to inject as much Huanqi genuine qi into her body at the cost of getting injured. Unfortunately, it was too late for her to realize it now. She could feel that her body had become much hotter and her legs were a little weak. It seemed that she couldn't even stand. Song Qingshu said coldly, "We all rely on our own abilities. What's the difference between us? You think it's noble for you to bully those with lower cultivation because you have lived for a long time? Shut up. I'm not the same as you ants." Qing's figure flashed, and she stabbed him with her bamboo stick. She had to kill him quickly, and then find a quiet place to expel the evil poison in her body. Song Qingshu didn't fight her head-on anymore. Instead, he mainly dodged and delayed her attacks. He was injured because he wanted to get close to her to use Huanqi genuine qi. Now that the situation was reversed, he wouldn't be hurt so easily again. Qing attacked him for 81 times in a row. Although she almost killed him several times, she was always very close. In the end, her hand that was holding the bamboo stick started to tremble. She knew that if she continued to fight, she would probably die here. So she turned around and ran away immediately after stabbing him with her sword. Song Qingshu laughed. "Aren't you an immortal in heaven? You represent the will of heaven and see us as ants, right? Why are you running away now?" Qing was ashamed and angry. She wanted to burn this guy's bones and scatter his ashes. Unfortunately, the feeling in her body was getting stronger and stronger, and it was a special feeling that she had never felt before. She couldn't care so much anymore, and she just wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. The tips of her toes stepped on the branches a few times, and the slight feedback made her tremble all over. That feeling of shame made her feel even more ashamed and resentful. Song Qingshu followed her from a distance. After all, she was a legendary figure. He was worried that she might have other tricks up her sleeves. Anyway, the longer they dragged it out, the better it would be. Once again, the two of them ran for dozens of miles. Qing stepped on a tree branch and suddenly let out a groan. Her legs went soft, and she fell into the grass below. Song Qingshu rushed over and looked at the unconscious young girl lying on the ground. He secretly rejoiced that his cultivation technique just happened to restrain her. Otherwise, if it was any other man, he would definitely be dead. Just as he was about to check on her injuries, Qing suddenly opened her eyes, and the green bamboo stick in her hand stabbed towards his throat like a poisonous tongue. Her movements were fast and accurate. Even with Song Qingshu's cultivation, it would be difficult for him to dodge. Fortunately, her hands and feet were weak at this moment. As a result, there was a small gap between her moves, allowing Song Qingshu to escape. Touching the bloodstain on his neck, Song Qingshu's eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. "You're always acting all high and mighty. What's the big deal? I'll make you fall from the clouds. At most, we'll die together." Previously in the Mongolian camp, he used the divine knife slash to kill hundreds of Shui Imperial Guards. The divine knife slash was originally very demonic, and it could easily make people fall into madness. Previously, when he used it on Gao Chang's group, it triggered the demons in his heart. This time, the bloody massacre, the demonic nature of the divine knife slash, and the cold and arrogant attitude of the Nine Heavens fairy, who represented the heavenly Tao to punish you, and the way she looked at him, as if he was an ant, stimulated him. The sneak attack that almost killed him was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and it caused him to completely go crazy. Noticing that his eyes had turned red, Qing was both shocked and angry. What are you doing?" Song Qingshu did not answer. He only reached out and sealed all the important acupuncture points on her body. In reality, the stab just now had used up the last of her strength, and it didn't matter whether she sealed the acupuncture points or not. "Aren't you high and mighty, looking down on ants like us? I want to see how you feel when you're pressed down by ants from the lower world." Song Qingshu's eyes were full of madness. Since his opponent represented the heavenly Tao protector Temujin, and he had violated the heavenly Tao, he could not escape the fate of being erased. If that was the case, what was there for him to be afraid of? "You ant, if you dare touch me, I will make sure you die a horrible death, and you will never be able to reincarnate." At this point, how could Qing not understand what her opponent was trying to do? She had never encountered something like this in all her years, and for a moment, she could not help but panic. "What's the point of threatening me now?" Song Qingshu pointed at the wounds on his body. "I told you stabbed me so many times just now, and now I'm going to stab you back." Qing was about to go crazy when she felt him pressing down on her. She had never been humiliated like this by an ant from the lower cohort, but for some reason, the feeling coming from her body made her not want to resist so much. In fact, she even felt a little hopeful. Wait, as soon as this thought came into her mind, she suddenly woke up. How could she have the same thoughts as those ants? Her eyes became indifferent, and her voice became extremely cold. "You forced me to do this. There is only a strand of my soul in this body, and that is why I have fallen into your trap. You forced me to come to this world." Feeling the sudden increase of the girl's aura, a gust of wind blew through the forest, and the clouds above his head gathered together. A huge and beautiful shadow was faintly discernible in the clouds. The huge pressure made Song Qingshu's soul tremble. He could not help but feel sad. In the end, he still could not fight against the will of the heavens. Was the saying that man can conquer nature a lie in the end? No, I can't accept this. Temujin led his men to burn, kill, and loot all over the place, bringing only destruction and destruction to the people everywhere. How many families were broken up? How many brilliant civilizations were destroyed? Why did he represent the will of heaven and earth? Why did the heavens choose him as their emperor? This kind of will of the heavens was not worth it. In his previous life, the protagonists in the novels often fought against the will of the heavens. At that time, he thought it was stupid, but now he gradually understood. This represented the unyielding heart of humans. People could be defeated, but they would never surrender. Thinking of this, Song Qing-shu made up his mind. He directly tore off her dress and pressed his whole body on top of her. Even if he was about to die, he would drag her down with him. You. Ah-Ching's eyes were wide open. She was both shocked and furious, and her mind was similarly blank. She never expected that she would actually be taken advantage of by an ant from the lower realms. It was all because her body was too useless. It was actually sensitive to such an extent, causing her to instantly, "I'm going to kill you." Ah-Ching finally reacted. She turned over and pressed him under her. The restriction on her body seemed to have lost its effect. Song Qing-shu laughed. "If I die, then I die. It's worth it anyway." Ah-Ching's face turned cold. She waved her hand and summoned thousands of invisible swords to float around her. "I will let you suffer thousands of cuts and still not die. I will let you taste the most miserable torture in the world." She was about to attack when she suddenly froze. Huh? By now, Song Qing-shu was completely indifferent. What's wrong? A day as husband and wife means 100 days of love. You don't want to kill me. Ah-Ching's expression changed. Why do you have the aura of the Yellow Emperor on you? Song Qing-shu was stunned. That's too much. I don't deserve it. Ah-Ching closed her eyes and felt carefully. No, it's the technique you practice. It has the shadow of the Yellow Emperor's Goddess Sutra. It's not exactly the same. It seems that you've gone astray. Song Qing-shu was stunned. Are you talking about the Mary Diana of the esoteric sect? He thought about it and realized that this was the only thing that could be related to the Goddess Sutra. It was said that the emperor had 3,000 women and ascended to heaven. The Mary Diana was quite close in some aspects. The Mary Diana of the esoteric sect? Ah-Ching was stunned. She counted with her fingers. I see. The Yellow Emperor's Goddess Sutra was lost. Those guys from the esoteric sect found a part of it. They changed it according to the part and their own understanding. That's why they went astray. Song Qing-shu was enlightened. It turned out that the esoteric sect's technique he practiced had such a background. No wonder it was so powerful. It was like he was cheating all the way. Well, since we have such a relationship, can we make up? Ah-Ching laughed coldly. You've done such a thing to me, and you think you can just let it go? Song Qing-shu suddenly had an idea. He hurriedly said, You keep saying that Temujin is the emperor of this world, but Mongolia has been the most powerful country in the world for decades. In a sense, he has been the emperor for decades. Besides, his fate was to die on Mount Lupan. What I am doing is not going against the law of heaven, right? Ah-Ching said coldly, Sophistry. I don't want to waste time with you. Just as she was about to attack, her expression suddenly changed. She quickly counted with her fingers. That seems to be the fate of Temujin. She suddenly exclaimed, And why do you have the aura of the heavenly Tao on you? Song Qing-shu had a strange expression on his face. Could it be that he stole it from you like we did just now? There are 3,000 paths, but there is always a chance of survival. He had been thinking about how to find a way out of this situation. She claimed to be the protector of the heavenly Tao. So if he joined forces with the heavenly Tao, would he be able to find a chance of survival? He didn't know what the heavenly Tao was, and it was too vague. After thinking about it, the girl in front of him was the closest thing to the heavenly Tao. What happened just now was partly due to his inner demons and partly because he had a vague guess in his subconscious. By using the dual cultivation technique to become one with her, he would also be contaminated with the aura of the heavenly Tao. Ah-Ching's expression changed faster and faster. After a long time, she looked at him deeply and waved her hand. The sword aura in the air disappeared. You seem to know the arrangements of the heavenly Tao. If you had killed Temujin somewhere other than Mount Lupan, even if you had the aura of the heavenly Tao, you would not have escaped death. Song Qing-shu, however, was overjoyed. Does that mean I don't have to die now? He couldn't tell if he did it intentionally or not. Perhaps his subconscious mind knew about the fate of the past, so it would subconsciously follow the rules. Just like in searching for Qin, if there was a Qin Shi Huang in history, then there must be a Qin Shi Huang in the future, but it didn't matter if this Qin Shi Huang was the real one. Similarly, since Temujin died on Mount Lupan, then Yi Fuqian's plan to kill him on Mount Lupan was, to a certain extent, in line with his original fate. A look of struggle flashed across Ah Qing's face, but she finally nodded. Yes, you have now obtained Temujin's original fate and become the new Renhuang. Song Qingshu laughed. I don't believe in these things that are predetermined by fate. I only believe in my own hard work. Wasn't Temujin killed by him, even though he was a Renhuang? Then wouldn't it be possible for him to be killed by Temujin as well? Ah Qing nodded. Yes, the heavenly Tao will leave a trace of uncertainty. Although you have been chosen as the new Renhuang, you may not succeed in the end. The rest will depend on your luck. With the confirmation, Song Qingshu instantly relaxed. When he planned to kill Temujin, he was wary of the top masters around Temujin and worried that the assassination would fail. But after the incident at Peerless City, he was still most worried about this fairy of the ninth heaven. He knew that she would most likely come out to mess things up. Therefore, he had been thinking about how to deal with the fairy of the ninth heaven. Relatively speaking, with the Skiri shaman, Meng Qihang, and many other masters dead, and the evil Master Pangban gone, killing Temujin was no longer a problem. But no matter how he thought about it, he was in deep despair about the future. No matter what, it was difficult for him to resist her. Even if he could use the Pure of Joy to deal with Ah Qing for a while, he would not be able to deal with the will of the fairy of the ninth heaven. This matter had always been pressing down on his heart like a huge mountain. Now that he had finally obtained a satisfactory conclusion, his entire body became extremely relaxed. He felt as if the sky was high, and the sky was high, and the sea was wide and boundless like a fish leaping about. This world was still that world, but in his eyes, it was already suddenly enlightened. Then let's part ways here. Song Qingshu cupped his hands. First, he was worried that she would turn hostile, and second, he needed to meet up with Dongfang Muxue. Dongfang Muxue had been injured quite badly, and he did not know how the battle was going in Xingqing. Wait, Ah Qing called out to him. Song Qingshu's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, I'm done for. This woman probably still remembers how I offended her just now. Sure enough, she won't let me off so easily. He forced out a smile and said, What instructions does Fairy have for me? Ah Qing sneered. You're so respectful to me now? Just now? At this point, a trace of unnaturalness flashed across her beautiful and holy face. Just now, I was being controlled by my inner demons. I really did not mean to offend you. For some reason, Song Qingshu did not have the courage to throw caution to the wind like before. He was very timid. Do you think I'll believe you? Ah Qing stared at him. Her eyes, deeper than the stars, seemed to be able to see through every cell in his body. Song Qingshu smiled embarrassedly. He did feel a little guilty and did not know how to explain himself. Fortunately, Ah Qing spoke again. However, there's indeed a problem with your cultivation method. Although you have thought of some ways to control your inner demons over the years, the most you can do is to prolong the time when they act up. One day, they will act up completely, and you will fall into the devil's path and fall into endless madness. Song Qingshu was stunned. Originally, he thought that no one from the Tantric sect had mastered it for thousands of years because they were Buddhists and did not have the resources to find so many female confidants. Therefore, they had to use force to occupy some women, which left an irreparable flaw in their souls. He was different. He had many female confidants and could avoid the pitfalls that the predecessors of the Tantric sect had encountered. He thought that he had mostly solved this problem, but from what Ah Qing said, it seemed that he had only restrained himself to a certain extent. Is there a solution? Song Qingshu was not stupid. Ah Qing was a real fairy who had descended to the human world. She had just recognized him as the emperor. If he did not take this opportunity to learn from her, he might as well die. A strange expression appeared on Ah Qing's beautiful and indifferent face. Fine, I will teach you the real plain girl sutra to make up for the flaw in your cultivation method. This will prevent you from falling into the devil's path and bringing disaster to the human world. Song Qingshu was dumbfounded. How? A faint blush gradually spread on Ah Qing's pure face. I don't believe that you really don't know. Song Qingshu smiled embarrassedly. I just don't believe it. Shut up. Come here. There was a hint of annoyance between Ah Qing's eyebrows. At the same time, there was a hint of gentleness. The green dress seemed to be unobstructed as it slowly slid down from her white and soft skin. Song Qingshu swallowed his saliva and walked over. His trembling hand touched her body that was glowing with holy white light. Today's chapter is long enough, right? If you're satisfied with it, please help me vote for my new book, Land Fairy. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 2493. After who knew how long, Ah Qing's reproachful and helpless voice sounded. Are you done yet? A muffled voice answered, I don't think there will be a next time. Of course, don't waste the opportunity. Ah Qing's cheeks were bright red. She bit her lips and said, How did I meet such a scoundrel like you? I have just passed the Plain Maiden Sutra to you. I have to go now. Song Qingshu said hurriedly, the last 3 times. Ah Qing's face was burning, and there was a hint of annoyance between his brows. How many times have you said that? This time, I promise it will be the last 3 times. Ah Qing pursed her lips and said worriedly, Don't damage your body. Song Qingshu laughed. The blissful Zen is good at this. I also got your Plain Maiden Sutra, which can support both yin and yang. To be honest, I was worried that your body wouldn't be able to take it. Ah Qing snorted and turned her face away. Her voice was sweet and charming, and the meaning in her tone was self-explanatory. I have a question. Is your mind here or your body? What do you think? Then can your main body feel it as well? Shut up. Don't ask. The last 3 times. No, the last time. Okay, after a long time, when Song Qingshu woke up, she was already gone. He sighed. He probably wouldn't have the chance to see her again in this life. She had clearly told him that because he, the Ren Huang, was a bit unusual and different from Tai Muzhen, she was no longer responsible for protecting him. The heavenly path would operate on its own, and the final outcome would depend on one's own luck. But now that he had taken down his greatest enemy, Temujin, and solved the problem of his inner demons that had been troubling him for a long time, he felt as if he had transcended all worldly affairs, and all problems were no longer problems. What's more, he had just learned a lot from the Plain Maiden Sutra with Ah Qing. Now, he really felt invincible and undefeatable. Seeing that it was already dawn, he hurried to Xingqing Manor. On the way, he was still thinking about the unprecedented experience from yesterday. The body of a goddess was really different. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Could it be that he had to break through the void in the future to continue their relationship? However, there were so many beauties in this world. How could he bear to give them up? He was conflicted all the way back to the Mongolian camp, and he noticed that the Mongolian army had left behind a ground full of corpses. They had long since retreated completely. He continued to rush in the direction of Xingqing Manor. He wanted to know how the battle was going there. If there was no clear winner yet, he didn't mind going there to finish them off. Because he had been chasing and killing Ah Qing all the way, he had run quite a distance. By the time he returned to Xingqing Prefecture, it had already been a day and a night. Coincidentally, he ran into the Mongolian army being routed. The Jin Kingdom's Iron Buddhas and the Loyal Army, the Western Xia Kingdom's Iron Sparrowhawks, and the Southern Song Dynasty's Godly Armbows were all out in pursuit of the Mongolian army. Seeing that the outcome of the battle had been decided, Song Qingshu no longer interfered and directly entered the imperial city. Knowing that Song Qingshu had arrived, Mu Wanqing rushed out and threw herself into his arms. Big brother Song, you really did it. You really did it. Previously, the entire Western Xia had been pressured by the Mongolians to the point of suffocation. Not to mention the people of Western Xia, even the upper echelons of the country were on the verge of despair. Only when they thought of Song Qing-shu did they have the slightest bit of hope. Even so, they didn't have too much hope. After all, the Mongolians were too strong, and Temujin was too strong. Mu Wanqing was very nervous and worried about the future of his trip. She even thought that if he failed, the worst that could happen was that she would die with him. As soon as this thought came to mind, she actually calmed down. Now that she knew that it was a great success, how could she not be excited? I'm back. From now on, there's nothing to be afraid of. Song Qing-shu gently hugged her trembling body and gently stroked her hair. Many of the palace maids and guards around them looked at each other. How could our empress throw herself into the arms of another man? But this time, the empress and the crown princess had led Western Xia to victory against the Mongolians. Their prestige was unprecedentedly high, and no one dared to criticize them. After all, everyone knew that the emperor's health was failing, and he was lying in the palace waiting for death. It wasn't strange for the empress to find another man. Western Xia had always been a semi-nomadic country, and this kind of thing was much more open than the southern Song dynasty. Song Qing-shu also noticed the gazes of those people, but he didn't care at all. After the war that destroyed Western Xia, the power of the upper echelons of the country could be said to have been purged. Now, the remaining people basically followed the lead of the empress, the crown princess, and the crown princess. Moreover, even if there was no purge, so what? His current mentality was very different. He had even killed Temujin, and even a fairy of the ninth heaven. Ahem, a mere opposition force from the Western Xia was nothing to him. Hey, big brother Song, you're injured? Mu Wanqing suddenly noticed the bloodstains on his body. She hurriedly looked around and found that he was covered in wounds and blood. She almost fainted. Song Qing-shu hurriedly supported her. Sister Wan, don't worry. These are all small wounds. They've already healed. If you don't believe me, look. As he said this, he showed her the wounds. It was obvious that they had already scabbed. Mu Wanqing gently touched his wounds, almost crying. Big brother Song, this trip must have been very dangerous. I don't know who was so cruel as to stab you so many times. Song Qing-shu had a strange expression on his face. Don't worry, I've already got my revenge. I stabbed her even more times. Mu Wanqing, however, couldn't understand the meaning behind his words. She blinked a few times in confusion. Right, where Xian and Qinglu? Song Qing-shu hurriedly changed the topic. Mu Wanqing answered. Sister Nancian led the army out of the city to pursue the Mongolians. Qinglu also brought people from Class 1 Hall to help. Song Qing-shu frowned. Will there be any danger? I'll go and take a look. Although the Mongolians had been defeated, they still had a lot of experts. If something happened to the two women, it would really be too much for him to bear. Mu Wanqing smiled. Big brother Song, rest well. Tai Fei and Senior Wu Yazi also went. With them looking after you, you should be fine. Only then did Song Qing-shu relax. Right now, there were no grandmasters in the Mongolian army. With Li Qiushui and Wu Yazi looking after them, there was indeed no need to worry. Mu Wanqing continued. Right, Sister Dongfang is also in the palace. She seems to have suffered some serious injuries. Really? Quick, take me there. Song Qing-shu hurriedly said. Mu Wanqing nodded and led him in the direction of the inner palace. On the way, she said, I've also seen that Princess Fragrance. She really is a beauty that can cause the downfall of the city. No wonder Temujin didn't hesitate to mobilize the army for her. Her tone was full of amazement and admiration. Song Qing-shu smiled. She is indeed very beautiful. Mu Wanqing originally wanted to ask about the relationship between the two of them, but on second thought, with Big Brother Song's temperament, there was no need to ask to know what was going on. He had just risked his life to save Xixia. So what was the point of being jealous like this? In this way, the two came to a courtyard in the inner palace. They found Yuan Zi and Kazli pacing back and forth anxiously in the courtyard. Seeing him, they both rushed to him with a cry. Big brother Song, are you okay? Song Qingshu hurriedly checked on the two women. After all, they were in the Mongolian camp, so he was worried about whether they were in danger. We're fine, but in order to protect us, Sister Dongfang suppressed her internal injuries. Now she is suffering from internal injuries. Yuan Zi looked into the room with a worried expression. Song Qingshu pushed the door open and entered the room. As soon as he entered, a fierce qi rushed toward him. Yuan Zi, Mu Wanqing, and the others all turned pale with fright. Song Qingshu waved his hand and dissipated the qi. Then he said to Yuan Zi and the others, "She is forcing the sword qi out of her body. Don't come in, lest you get hurt." Yuan Zi and the others nodded. That's what Sister Dongfang told us just now. Song Qingshu walked in. Dongfang Muxue, who was healing herself on the bed, looked pale. Hearing the noise, she opened her eyes. She was a little surprised to see Song Qingshu come back. "Have you taken care of that man?" "Yes." Song Qingshu knew who she was referring to. "Didn't you lose an arm or a leg?" Dongfang Muxue stopped cultivating and stood up to check on him. In her eyes, the injuries all over his body were nothing. After all, he was going to deal with a legendary figure. Song Qingshu rolled his eyes. "Do you want your man to be disabled so much?" Dongfang Muxue clicked her tongue in wonder. "I'm just a little shocked. I was hit by her innate sword qi, and I still can't force it out. But you came back unscathed. To be honest, I really didn't expect that. Her innate sword qi is really powerful. It is like maggots in the bones after entering the meridians. When venerated Ming was injured by her sword qi, he had to use the star-sucking great method to resolve it. He lost all his cultivation and started from the beginning," Song Qingshu said. "Come here. I'll help you resolve the sword qi. You can resolve it." Dongfang Muxue was a little upset. She was proud and couldn't accept the gap. She had spent so much effort, but still couldn't force it out. How could he do it? In her eyes, as long as he didn't use the sword 23, their cultivation was almost the same. Alas, I still miss the time when I could beat him up. Why didn't I take the opportunity to play with him? Of course, if it was in the past, it would be really troublesome. But Song Qingshu had just had the most intimate communication with Ah Qing. He was very familiar with the sword qi in her body, and it was no problem for him to resolve it. He helped Dongfang Muxue sit down and pressed his palm on the acupoints all over her body, removing the innate sword qi in her body one by one. "How did you deal with that person?" Dongfang Muxue didn't care about her injuries and asked in a gossipy tone. "Ahem," Song Qingshu coughed and said, "Of course it was because of my talent and looks. Do you believe that I won't slap this stool on your face?" Dongfang Muxue said angrily. "I used the joyful genuine qi to temporarily affect her and buy some time. Later, she realized that the heavenly mandate had changed and that I had the fate of a human sovereign, so she let me go." Song Qingshu thought for a while and decided not to tell her about the two of them. Who knew if the mysterious fairy of the 9 heavens would know what he was doing? If he angered her, the heavenly punishment would not be a joke. Joyful genuine qi? You didn't take advantage of that person? Dongfang Muxue was instantly full of gossip. Song Qingshu smiled embarrassedly and said, "It's not that easy to take advantage of." Dongfang Muxue didn't suspect anything. After all, in her opinion, the gap between the two of them was too big. She didn't expect someone to be so bold. About 2 hours later, Song Qingshu finally succeeded in removing the innate sword qi in Dongfang Muxue's body and almost healed her internal injuries. Mu Wanqing came in and said, "Our allied army defeated the Mongols. Sister Ninxian and Qinglu are both back. In addition, the Jin Kingdom, the Si Luo, and people from Sichuan also came with them." She looked at Song Qingshu subconsciously as she spoke, and there was a hint of worry in her eyes. Song Qingshu was stunned for a moment, then realized that she was probably worried about meeting Zhou Zhuo. He smiled and said, "We'll meet sooner or later. Don't worry, I'm here." Mu Wanqing blushed and said, "I'm not worried at all. After all, this is my territory. If she bullies us, don't blame me for being rude." Song Qingshu took a deep breath and then remembered that none of these women were easy to deal with. In the past, they were scattered all over the country, and it was natural that they would be fine if they didn't meet each other. But from now on, the chances of them meeting each other would increase significantly. At that time, one could imagine the scene of the charaba. A group of people hurried to the main hall. After all, apart from their confidants, there were also some envoys from other countries. They had to receive them. In the main hall, the people from the various countries had a deep and friendly conversation. Obviously, because of the common enemy, Mongolia, everyone's relationship had become closer. Even to see Luo, who used to be enemies with Xixia, was talking and laughing with the officials of Xixia. This was how the world was. There were no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. Luo expressed his gratitude to Song Qingshu as well. If it wasn't for his help, the traitors would have destroyed their country and destroyed their homes. In Sichuan, the three emotions Taoist and Lin Pingji were also reminiscing with Song Qingshu and discussing the changes in Sichuan at the same time. When the banquet ended, the officials from the Ministry of Rights of Xixia led the representatives to the Four Quarters Embassy to rest. As for Zhou Zhuo, Wang Yinping, Wang Yanzhongjie, and the others, they all stayed in the palace. The atmosphere suddenly became a little quiet. The women looked at each other, and the atmosphere was especially strange. Dongfang Muxue drained the wine on the table with a faint smile and said, "You guys chat first. I'm going to play with Tai Fei." Watching her leave, Song Qingshu had a strange expression on his face. What did she mean by playing with Tai Fei? He thought of Li Qiushui's flirtatious and dissolute nature. Were they going to play all the way to bed? Song Qingshu was speechless, but he knew what she liked, and she was looking for another woman this time, so he couldn't be bothered to care about her. After Dongfang Muxue left, the hall fell into silence again. Zhou Zhuo's mentality was different, so she was the first to speak. "Qingshu, just now you and Lao Siluo said that because the Khan is dead, the Mongolians will fall into internal strife and won't be invading south for a while. But if they do so in the name of avenging Temujin, the Xixia side will be in danger. After all, Temujin died near Mount Lupan." Song Qingshu explained, "It was inconvenient to tell you before because Lao Siluo and the others were there, but now I can tell you the real reason. I've already made arrangements in Mongolia. Xiaomin has been lying low all this time. She has already arranged everything. Once Temujin is dead, she will be able to stir up public opinion. After all, everyone saw that Temujin was killed by the Shuiwei clan of Dongying, and they must avenge him. Among all the Mongol kings, Kublai and Ali Buj have always been evenly matched. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there will be a consensus in the Mongols that whoever can avenge Temujin, kill the Shuiwei clan, and destroy Dongying will be able to become the Khan." All this time, Song Qingshu had been following the method of pushing the boat with the current. For example, if he knew that Temujin died at Mount Lupan, he would plot to kill him there. If he knew that the Mongolians would invade Japan in the east, he would give them a reason to do so. This was the advantage of going with the flow. Most of the time, you don't need to use much effort, and the whole thing will go according to your plan. Hearing his explanation, the girls came to a sudden realization and were completely relieved. Zhou Zhuo sighed to herself. Although Zhao Min was a little annoying, she could be very powerful sometimes. After everyone finished talking about this matter, the scene suddenly fell into a strange silence. Song Qingshu couldn't help but feel a headache coming on, but with his rich experience, he quickly came up with a plan. Suddenly, he let out a loud cry and fell toward Mu Wanqing. The other girls were shocked and ran over to check on him. "Brother Song, what's wrong?" Song Qingshu's face was pale. "I'm afraid that the injuries caused by the mysterious lady of the ninth heaven are acting up." As he spoke, he purposely revealed the wounds on his body. Mu Wanqing, who was holding him, blinked. Didn't he say that he was already healed? "Quick, go get Dongfang Muxue." Zhou Zhuo was also panicking. There were only 2 grandmasters in the city. If they didn't look for Dongfang Muxue, who else could they look for? Song Qingshu hurriedly organized. "There's no need. Just soak me in the hot spring in the backyard of the palace. You guys just need to use your internal energy to help me heal." Mu Wanqing's face instantly turned red. Now that things had come to this, how could she not know what the other party was planning? At this moment, the other party's voice sounded in her ears through the secret voice sending. Sister Wan, don't undermine me at this time. Mu Wanqing bit her lips and didn't say anything in the end. Quick, help him in. Where's your hot spring? Zhou Zhuruo hurriedly asked Mu Wanqing. Mu Wanqing's face was extremely red, but she didn't answer. Li Qinglu, who was beside her, felt a little strange. She hurriedly answered for her. I know. Follow me. The girls hurriedly helped Song Qingshu into the inner palace. Casley was also anxious. Although she didn't understand Chinese, she could still see that Song Qingshu had fainted. She was also anxious to follow them, but she was stopped by Yuan Zi. Sister Yuan, why are you stopping me? Don't go. Yuan Zi's face turned red. She had been with Mu Wanqing before, so how could she not see through Song Qingshu's trick? Why? Brother Song is injured. Casley's eyebrows were full of anxiety. Yuan Zi whispered something in her ear, and Casley's pure face also turned red. Brother Song is really a little naughty. On the other side, Wanya and Zhongjia also wanted to follow them, but he was stopped by Ouyang Feng. Grandpa, quickly think of a way to save Brother Qingshu. Wanya and Zhongjia also looked anxious. Ouyang Feng was speechless. What are you going to do? You have to take off your clothes to heal in the hot spring. It's his wife who is going there. Why are you going there? Wanya and Zhongjia muttered, I don't mind being seen by him. Ouyang Feng was speechless. Then you should find a time to take it off for him in private. Do you have to do it in front of so many women? Wanya and Zhongjia raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and a hint of enlightenment appeared on his beautiful face. That makes sense. But is there really nothing wrong with Brother Song? There's nothing wrong with him. Ouyang Feng scolded. As the saying goes, old people become shrewd. After so many years, he had seen all kinds of things. He could see through Song Qingshu's plan at a glance. Naturally, he didn't want his precious granddaughter to fall into his hands. At this time, Zhou Zhuruo and the other women had already helped Song Qingshu to the backyard of the palace. They helped him take off his clothes and soaked him in the hot spring. They hurriedly asked, What's next? You guys help me heal my injuries. I'll disperse the ninth heaven mystic fairies' innate sword chi into your bodies. This way I won't hurt you. Song Qingshu's face was weak, and he also spoke seriously. The women couldn't help but be stunned. How could they go into the hot spring to heal him? Did they have to take off their clothes? It wasn't that they couldn't get along with each other in private, but how could they do it in front of so many people? Only Mu Wanqing knew that he was faking it. Her first reaction was to leave, but she suddenly thought that this was a rare and good opportunity to promote the relationship between everyone. If she left and they became sisters after this, wouldn't she be in a disadvantageous position? But if she really had to accompany Song Qingshu to fool around, just thinking about it made her heart beat violently. For a moment, she couldn't help but hesitate. Perhaps some readers didn't pay attention to the official account, so I'll say it again. I never intended to treat Temujin as the final big boss. There should be a few more scenes later on, but the pace will be faster. In addition, I'm getting longer and longer. What about you guys? Monthly tickets for the new book, The Fairy of the Land. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.